at StretchZone.com.
Isn't this a sports show?
We're here for a one-on-one interview with our friend Travis Kelce. Travis, I know you listen to a lot of Almost Entirely Sports. What do you think about Joshua Brisco and Beards McFly?
I mean, I don't think they suck. I can tell you that.
Thank you, Travis.
Almost Entirely.
I did the best I could. That's our new tagline. It's Almost Entirely Sports on Sports Radio 810. I did the best I could.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Hey, Beards, where's your Pokeball?
So Rudy and I have our Pokeballs out.
Yeah.
What?
Beards, where's yours?
Beards, take your Pokeball out. Come on, it's not as much fun if we don't all have our Pokeballs out.
I haven't bought mine yet.
Take the show with you by listening on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app at 810WHB.com or by searching for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
I love walking into a Home Depot and go down the wood section.
This is Almost Entirely Sports on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Happy Monday. Feels good to be here right on the backs of a Phoenix Suns victory. Really just love to be here. Knowing that my team is undefeated in the beginning of the NBA playoffs. I'm just generally having a pretty excellent time being me, Joshua Brisco, resident Phoenix Suns fan here on this side of the glass. Rudy Salazar on the other side of the glass. Nuggets Warriors play again tonight, right? Tomorrow night? They play tonight, right?
Yeah, tonight. We are currently undefeated in Game 2 of the 2022 NBA playoffs.
Sure. I think I missed most of Game 1. What happened there? I don't even know what happened. Who won that game? Do you remember?
So if I
need to look it up, that's fine.
If I remember, I was in a movie theater when that game was happening, so I didn't get to watch any of it.
Because the game was like a movie for you, a Denver Nuggets fan. How could you not be stoked about that?
It sounded like when I went into the movie that things were going good and looking good. And then when I got out of the movie theater, things did not go good.
Okay, so the Nuggets did lose that game. Okay, boy, I just couldn't remember. I just wanted you to confirm.
123 to 103, 125 to 103. Not great.
Well, a chance for a comeback in Game 2.
Jokic had a good game.
It usually happens.
Good at basketball. Unfortunately, the people around him, well, they're hurt.
Again. One of these days, Rudy. One of these days, Michael Porter Jr.'s back is going to be healthy.
I mean, Jokic is basically just Dorothy, and he's got Jamal Murray, who's just over here, the Tin Man. If only I had a knee. Michael Porter Jr. is the line. If only I had a back.
It's gotten dark out here.
And who am I missing? Lion. Oh, Scarecrow. I mean, the Scarecrow, I guess, is just the rest of the team. I just wish they were good at basketball.
Yeah, they just had a brain.
Yeah, they just all wish they had a brain.
I was just flipping around the televisions because
I wish MPJ was the Tin Man. Then his back might be good.
It will at least be. I don't know. He might be because he needs it to loosen up a little bit. He's very stiff and sort of just frozen in place. He needs a little.
I wish his back was like stiff to where he could use it.
He needs a little oil back there. I just was flipping around the channels here in the studio. We're going to do a lot of Chiefs today because they had press conferences. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, McCole Hardman, Nick Bolton all spoke. And as you know, on this show, whenever I tell you we're going to play audio, we play all of that audio. We'll talk more Chiefs, especially with Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest at 8 and Harold Kuntz of Fox 4 at 9. But I was just, puttering around the DirecTV guide, putting some sort of sport on the television as we get ready for the show here tonight. Currently on ESPN2, there is the 2021, this is a re-air, this isn't even live, the 2021 Air Hockey Invitational. Following that, on ESPN2, the 2021 Corgi Races at Emerald Downs. Following that, the 2022 ACL Cornhole Mania.
Is today ESPN Ocho Day?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
It's April 18th. I thought there was some sort of numerical logic for the Ocho. I don't know, but that is why. And then at 10, it's E60. They're replaying the Joe Paterno thing. I think they're counter-programming against themselves because on ESPN proper tonight, they're running this new, I think it's an E60 called The Paterno Legacy, which I'm guessing is getting into the not good parts of the Paterno Legacy. And like, hey, how do we offset our documentary largely having to do with one of college football's all-time most beloved faces covering up child abuse? And it's like, you know what? Corgi races on ESPN2. What's the farthest away that we could get from Jerry Sandusky? Let's put corgi races on ESPN2.
I gotta say, like, if that's the logic, it's pretty good execution.
At least as someone who currently can only have this on mute, the E60 on Joe Paterno, probably very good from a journalistic sports story perspective. Now they're playing CrossNet on TV. It appears that air hockey was a short-lived deal. I don't know what CrossNet is. They're showing the rules. I'm not going to read them on air. It's bad radio. Not that that's ever stopped me before. But, it's basically 4-team volleyball. All right, cool. Got it.
Foursquare, but volleyball.
And it's kind of what it looks like, yeah. So, that's exciting. But, yeah, I think... Again, from a journalistic and interest standpoint, I'm sure that E60 is going to be worthwhile, but I can only watch it on mute. And whenever I was on regular ESPN for a second there, it was just Jerry Sandusky being put into the back of a car. And now I'm on ESPN2 watching dudes in short-sleeve button-ups talk about a sport that a bunch of people in swimsuits are playing on a beach, which will then shortly be followed by corgi races. At least on mute, this is the better viewing experience. I feel pretty confident and pretty stable in that.
I think you're right.
Speaking of better viewing experiences, if you enjoy watching this show on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Eventually, we're going to try to get this over to Twitter, but Twitter's video thing. Their video platform, a little finicky. But the Sports Radio 810 Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, you can watch the show live across all of those places. And beginning with tonight's show, we have implemented a brand new fancy computer on Rudy's side of the glass that is going to let you go from seeing me in, I believe, 480 pixels to we're going like a pretty HD experience right now. I got to make sure from the TV cameras that I'm looking at my little monitor of right now, my skin looks fine. I've also got a pretty harsh light from the outside that really helps wash out some blemishes. But I can't come in here with, a $50 sized zit on my forehead anymore, Because now, across the video feeds, you can witness us in all of our high-definition glory. You can see Rudy's hair in HD, so you can see the individual strands that are coiffed in such surgical precision. So we are upgrading the product across the 810 streaming platforms right now. We very much expect to have some fun stuff unfolding there over the course of the summer, even. But so make sure you're subscribed. If you're not already liking the Facebook page, following the Twitch, and subscribe to the YouTube, you should really do all that now.
Here's what I'll say.
If you're gonna say it, you better put that camera on you so people can look at your hair.
A day is gonna come, and by a day I mean 100% tomorrow, where if you want to know how good this computer is, Beards is 100% tomorrow during the zone going to be playing Elden Ring on it, because yes, this computer can play Elden Ring. Now you're probably also wondering, can you play Cyberpunk on it? The answer is no, because it's a bad glitchy game.
That's not the computer's fault.
But it's not the computer's fault.
The computer could open Cyberpunk.
Yes.
And then the computer, because it is so good, the computer might say, please turn this game off, use me for a better purpose.
Did you see the Cyberpunk news like yesterday?
I saw there was another update, another Polygon review.
There was that, but there was also they are, like, I think working on expansions, obviously, and still next gen. The quote was still very far away from a finished product.
It really is going to get finished in 2077. The title is a lot more literal than we ever gave it credit for.
Yeah.
Wow.
Here's the good news for anybody who likes the company and the games that they make. While sure, did they make their employees work like 100 hours a week when they deliberately promised that they would not do that? Yeah.
Yeah.
But reinsurance, they said there will be no crunch for The Witcher 4, so expect that game to come out in about 15 years.
And also, when has that studio ever lied to you? Never. Beards did say today that he'd be reachable if there were any questions or any issues with the computer, because he kind of spearheaded the setup of all of that. I wonder if we could reach him to comment on Cyberpunk still not being good and The Witcher 4 definitely being a multi-year experiment in terms of development.
I mean, we can get him on very easy. We can play Hey Beards, because so when I first turned it on, it wasn't picking up sound from the Black Magic box. Very simple. Unplug the power to that box, plug it back in, boom, works.
Bada bing.
That's how it is 99% of the time. I could come back, Beards, we got no audio. No, it's like, sorry, Beards, like, we'll come back from commercial. Just come on air.
Yeah.
You can. This is content.
Talk us through it on air. Sure.
And then as we're doing that, bombard them. Questions. Cyberpunk. Real journalism. Because that's what real journalism journalists do.
Wherever you drop that piece of paper over there on the board completely ruined my headphones. If you could just smack that knob again or
So
drop your pen.
I dropped the pen?
No.
Okay.
My audio is crystal clear, beautiful. No, that's not going to do it.
A little higher.
No, that's okay. We just touch the studio. Just touch the studio volume knob for me. And sometimes I don't know. We'll figure it out. There we go. We got worse again. Hey, it's back. Thank you, Rudy.
You're welcome.
So anyway, you can watch the show. You can see I love the hoodie that I'm wearing today. I've gotten many compliments on it. It's very on brand. I don't have a Suns hoodie, so what I wore instead to celebrate the first round victory last night, it is a raccoon on top of a basketball with a sort of comic book style like POW behind it. For me, this is a spiritual piece of Suns merchandise for me.
I just realized something.
Uh-oh.
You know how I told you, I was like, yeah, part of it, again, not a complaint. But I was like a little like curious, like, oh, I wonder why they put it on the TV.
Are you already complaining about the
I know why
our brand new TV setup?
So Beards can play video games on it.
Oh yeah, that's clearly it. Yes. Yeah, you say that tomorrow Beards is tomorrow during the zone, and we'll just report back on this during tomorrow's show. I fully expect that what we're going to find tomorrow, if we rifle through Beards' bag, is a wireless Xbox controller that he's just like hiding and smuggling in, and the Andersons are just going to be in here just waiting to throw to a clip to Beards, and Beards is going to have to use a wireless Xbox controller to smack a button that'll get audio playing. Just know when you listen to The Zone tomorrow,
which is
Beards is really multitasking.
Also just the normal day of The Zone, probably.
Usually Beards, I think, just throws just hits it with his... Beards usually just hits it with his heel.
Yeah.
I think that's usually the move. So anyway, I am, I can't speak for Rudy. I am extremely excited about the video side of everything. And if you've been an enjoyer of the AES video streams up until this point, it's only going to get better or worse, just sort of depending on how you feel about seeing us in high def, better resolution, overall a better video product. The only way it would be a downside is if you realize you didn't really want to look at us, which I would understand. But that becomes a you problem at that point.
I mean, I think there's a chance the system will stop working because parts magically go missing. And that has nothing to do with the fact that, I'm building a computer or anything. So obviously don't look at me. But that might be the only problem we all run into. Because I'm also the victim here.
Yeah. There's going to be a missing graphics card and a Rudy-shaped hole in the wall after the show tonight, is my concern. We'll try to make it work. As previously mentioned, we're not even...
One more quick thing.
Sure, why
I can
not?
also see, for the people who do comment on all the socials, it's also much easier for me to see now because I have it much bigger on a TV that is more in my direct view. So it's sometimes it can slip through the cracks. Much harder for that to happen now.
You want to get Rudy's attention?
Human Torch says, what up? Gus Johnson is calling the Sixers game, so nothing is better than that. I got you, Human.
Nothing's better than that? Not even God's favorite Kansas City sports talk radio show that's also streamed on Twitch and Facebook and YouTube?
Josh will call the game for you.
I could just be excited about basketball.
Yeah.
I could be excited about corgi racing if you give me 10 minutes. Hopefully that will take over my television soon. I can't wait. I would like to play that video game. I will say that we will begin doing Chiefs audio on the other side of our next break. We'll probably take an early one and just sort of set our feet as we prepare for Corgi races and Chiefs audio. It's kind of a funny, weird little pocket of Royals nonsense, by the way, because yesterday's game got as they say, banged, as I say in the industry. Game got banged.
Do they say that?
Someone said it. I don't know. I've heard it.
Has it? What?
Lebo's definitely said it. Not to throw Lebo under the bus, but
I've never heard that.
see it.
I've heard is it Marv,
Canceled, postponed, whatever.
Marv Albert who yells bang.
Bang!
Whenever, yeah, like I've heard him say bang.
No, the game yesterday got banged. So we have exactly Saturday's game to look back on. And look, man, you all
Did
heard
you
me.
watch it?
You all heard me on opening night, or the night after the opening day game, like the juice that I had in my soul. If there would have been something interesting yesterday, maybe we could have gotten there. But I'm going to need them to just put a little bit of spring back in my step at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later, before I am fully coming all the way around. Like, hey, you know what? Here's my one Royals take for you today, okay? We'll ask Harold about some Royal stuff later. Chris Bubich was better. He did walk everyone.
Better than running everyone.
But it's better than letting everyone score. It's better than exiting the game in the first 15 minutes of TV time. I never thought that it was going to be ball game for Chris Bubich based off that start. It just wasn't good. You know, we can live with that. Royals got to win. Everybody's happy-ish. Hunter Dozier playing pretty good baseball.
Crushing it
out here right now.
Making Lesky's prediction look right, just a year late, but making him look smart.
It makes sense. His thumb didn't explode yet, and he didn't get tackled at full speed trying to get to first base. He had a disastrous start to the year last year. Him having a better start this year makes some sense. But whenever the Royals do begin actually playing baseball games again, starting tomorrow, we'll talk about more leading up to that game tomorrow as well, by the way.
Might get a decent amount of rain outs this week.
Actually,
true. I don't know what their
tomorrow,
schedule's like, if they're on if they're home or road, but it's supposed to rain a lot of this week. I know they're home because Lebo's going out to the stadium.
Correct. We got the Twins tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday. We'll see where we end up on that one. We'll talk more Royals tomorrow. We'll talk more Royals with Harold. Right now, on a weird pattern of when you expect baseball to have always happened, and when it didn't happen, it's an aberration. Nothing on no Easter Sunday baseball for you. Kind of throws up the whole vibe out of whack. And right now, I need the Royals to pull me back in. They can't just exist. I need you to just invite us back in for something interesting. We'll come back around. Maybe on a different day, we would have started still by talking about if Chris Bubich is back or not. But as we stand here tonight, we got Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid talking to a microphone today. And the baseball team doesn't appear to be extremely good.
Some other fun Patrick Mahomes news.
Yeah, also true.
Athlete.
Yes. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are, in fact, teaming up. And it's to take down the old man crusade of the NFC, being Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. The next edition of the match, I think it's June 1st, July 1st. It's one of those firsts for sure.
It's a month in the summer that starts with a J.
I believe it's the first day of that month as well. It's the latest, there was the Phil and Tiger and the Brady and Manning entries into that. I believe last up was Bryson DeChambeau. June 1st?
Yeah, it was Bryson and...
Wasn't the guy who he doesn't...
Koepka,
I think it was
Maybe?
Koepka. I think it was Brooks
DeChambeau?
Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau last
That
time.
would make sense.
But this time, all quarterbacks.
Bleep the golfers.
Mahomes and Josh Allen are going to be out there just hitting absolute dingers. And you're going to have Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady playing some very technical golf, I would imagine. While Mahomes and Josh Allen are asking if it's legal for them to pick up the golf ball and just throw it instead of hitting it with a club. That's sort of my expectation. Mahomes said as much today in his press conference. It's like, yeah, we're just going to crush balls and let the old guys lay up. Like, you know what? I might tune in for that. That doesn't sound too bad. But yeah, you're right. A little extra Mahomes news today.
Especially in the
golf
middle of the June 1st summer when not a lot's going on. But I'm pretty intrigued by it, right? Like I wasn't into it last year, but I'll admit, Brady, Manning, Woods, Mickelson, that intrigued me. I watched that and I thought it was pretty good, right? Like, cause they were, some of it is watching football players play golf. And I'd been fine if they threw some golfers in there, but there's only maybe one golfer that I actually care if they're in there. And maybe actually two right now. There is still two. The problem is one of those golfers, while he did just finish the Masters, I don't know if his body's in a place where he wants to voluntarily, play another round of golf. Yeah. And the other one is somewhere in Saudi Arabia hitting a golf ball.
I think that's
still Phil and Tiger.
I think that's mostly true. If not exactly true, I think it is mostly true. Yours on Twitch. Can you imagine Mahomes hitting a golf ball with a baseball bat? This was a hotly contested topic a couple of weeks ago. Great poll by Yours on Twitch. Also, if you're watching on Twitch, tell me how flawless I look with our new fancy computer. Please validate me. Otherwise, this will...
And the computer.
Otherwise, this will all be devastating. Yeah, please validate me and the computer. We both need it. We both need your moral support. Me and the robot. Maybe an equal amount. Also, good news, June 1st, Royals Guardians, they play at noon. Gonna have that playoff race is gonna be really heating up by that point. You cannot miss any of that action. You can watch that game and then flip over to TNT, watch a little bit of Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen versus Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers.
Royals versus Guardians definitely sounds like kind of a medieval
it's
fight,
nice,
right?
Yeah.
Like it's just, hey, it's the Royals versus the Guardians, right? They battled in, 1622 over the cup that makes you live forever, that I've forgotten its name for whatever reason.
What?
The Goblet of Fire.
Wow, Rudy. I almost just said the Goblet of Fire is a joke. That is legitimately what I was going to say. And you beat me to it with the distinctly wrong answer. That is shocking. You're thinking, of course, of the Mug of the Covenant.
Yes.
I believe is what it's called.
Bilbo Baggins got it from that dragon.
I was really honing in on how Royals Twins does not have that same feeling. Royals Twins is just what you would, there's somewhere in history there was a set of twin princesses.
Yep.
They're the twin royals. There you go. They're the twin royals. Royals Guardians, though. Battle. In June. That's the best one, right? All the bird mascots, you can, go 1v1. But if you're the Royals, it really feels like the Guardians swapping in really did them a favor.
Yeah.
I can't believe you said Goblet of Fire before I did. Here's what we're going to do. If you've just been waiting around saying, okay, but are you guys going to do Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes audio? Yes, indeed we are. It's going to be on the other side of this break. Whenever we come back, there was some interesting stuff today, some about what these guys are doing in their offseason program, some about the post-Tyreek Hill era. Lots of good stuff to break down, both from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. We'll start doing that whenever we come back.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page.
Hello, Kansas City. It's Matt Beasler, former Sporting KC cap. Did you know you can recognize outstanding teachers and students in our community by nominating them as Blue KC Sporting Samaritans? We've partnered with Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas City to recognize administrators, teachers, and students who make our community a better place to live, work, and play. Each Blue KC Sporting Samaritan will be recognized at a Sporting KC home match throughout the 2002 regular season. They'll receive tickets to a match and be provided with SKC merchandise and more. To learn additional information about the program and to nominate a Blue KC Sporting Samaritan, visit sportingkc.com/BlueKC.
Who's ready to get a little Western? This is Garrett Jurgen, your 2022 American Royal Pro Rodeo announcer. Join me in watching the toughest sport.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Nothing really does anything for me, or neither does a lot for me.
Nothing in this world does anything for me anymore.
Yeah, I was never
Rudy
really
Salazar staring into the void.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Couple big pieces of news here. One is that we are going to hear from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in just a moment. And two, the Corgi races have begun on ESPN2. They have not actually begun racing yet. Currently just a bunch of B-roll, a bunch of dogs that look happy to be outside. Really the peak of all sporting right now, with ESPN singular currently airing a Joe Paterno documentary. On the other one, they're giving a scouting report on various Corgi breeds. I think I've picked the right channel. I have made the right decision. But did the Kansas City Chiefs make the right decision when they traded Tyreek Hill? Hi, I'm a professional radio host, and that was a segue. Let's start with Andy Reid. Again, we heard from Reid, Mahomes, Hardman, and Nick Bolton today. Presumably the last virtual Zoom presser that we're supposed to have for the foreseeable future. Let me just go ahead and get this. That was me knocking on wood. Just wanted to make sure nobody was going to, whenever the next super variant shows up, I wanted to know that I did knock on the wood.
Gotcha. See, I thought you were saying, because I was about to correct you. I was like, I'm pretty sure they'll do a presser next week, but you're saying not
in person.
In person.
In
Gotcha.
person. Saying last virtual as we know of right now. Knock on wood. Sorry if you live in a house with any dogs. Maybe you're listening on over a speaker or anything. If I just made anyone's dogs freak out, not my problem, I guess. But, I did think about it. Let's start with Andy Reid. Clearly, again, the obvious sort of first line of questioning has all been around Tyreek Hill. It's the first time we're getting these guys in press conference settings in quite a long time. I want to start with that whole process. We also will get to a little bit, at least, of what Mahomes and the current crop of receivers are currently doing in Texas. There's some interesting stuff in there, but clearly for me, the news of the day was to hear from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes for the first times really in a presser setting about the trade of Tyreek Hill. Andy Reid opened it up here by being asked about what this offense is going to look like without Tyreek Hill in it.
I don't think it'll be significantly different. It'll be similar to what we did when in the games that Tyreek couldn't play in. We just there are certain things that he did very well that we'll have people try to fill in those spots, but without forcing anything. What we do on this is we try to play to the player's strengths the best we can. So we'll see with some of the new guys what they can do, and then we'll work around that.
Okay. And also, you talked about the two new receivers at the owners' meetings, and you basically said, hey, we like their size. We felt like needed their size. Why is that so important? Why did you guys need to get bigger at those positions?
I don't know if necessarily we had to get bigger. These guys are bigger. So you're going to utilize some of the things that you can do with a little bit bigger guy. That we're fortunate that they have speed, athletic ability, and size. So you try to take those redeeming qualities and exploit them the best you can, and that's what we'll do. It ends up being a little different flair, though, than what we maybe have had in the past.
So there are a few things all within that. So the first thing is Andy Reid says the offense won't look significantly different without Tyreek Hill. Now, there's a number of ways that you could certainly view that. One being that Andy Reid is going to lie about schematic things in front of you pretty much all the time. Like, he's just going to say, hey, I'm not going to give you free technical advice in advance. Every other team. So, I mean, there's an obvious layer there of, is he here to tell you the truth? Also, the Corgis have taken off. At least one of them immediately just turned back to its handler at the line and just wanted to be pet more. And honestly, I get it. Ooh, one stopped just short of the checkered line there. Got spooked by the checkerboard, it seems. What a sport. It is definitely ESPN Ocho reruns. They just gave us the ESPN 8 logo there. I don't know why that's happening. I really think they're kind of programming the Joe Pa thing.
Yeah, that seems very likely.
Boy, what a finish.
Which, again, is like...
No, it's
not
brilliant.
The worst idea.
No.
It's pretty good.
Just every time there's super serious programming on ESPN, put Corgi races on ESPN too. I think that's great. But so, I think to some extent Andy Reid's not going to tell you what's going to change in April. But also, he does make the point that they're going to do some of the things they did when Tyreek Hill wasn't on the field, whenever he was injured. And there is a decent sample size for that. I'll give you some numbers here in just a second. But there's a decent sample size for the Chiefs offense without Tyreek Hill. Even then, I wonder what the difference is if you're a defense planning for a year-long undertaking. What does the offense look like whenever it's plan A here without Tyreek Hill? But also, those are some games where the oft-talked-about Mecole Hardman did some of his best work whenever Tyreek Hill wasn't out there. The other thing you get on the size of those receivers, Reid there makes it sound like it wasn't necessarily a purposeful thing. Like they did not have a closed-door meeting at some point, and then they let the smoke out through the roof, and then they came out and said, we've done it, we're going to take a bunch of big-bodied receivers now. It's not necessarily that it's been the plan to get Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Juju Smith-Schuster and then to draft one of the bigger receivers at the end of the first round this year. Like that is not necessarily what they have been aiming for from a certain point. But things have come together that way, so now all of a sudden you have bigger receivers. I do buy that. I don't know that there was a purposeful philosophy change in that regard. And so I generally buy that one. I think that there are going to be things that they can only do now that they have bigger receivers. There will be results to that, but I don't necessarily think their plan was, let's trade Tyreek Hill and get taller guys. And then we'll lose nothing if we do that. Of course, that's not the strategy. And frankly, the timing of the Tyreek Hill trade still makes me think that they got caught on their heels at least a little bit. Mark Gunnels tweeted this out earlier today. Patrick Mahomes in 5 games without Tyreek Hill. 1,737 passing yards. That's good for just under 350 per game. A 103 passer rating, a 63.5% completion percentage, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, 4-1 record in those 5 games without Tyreek Hill. Again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that is prescriptive of what's going to happen next, but in a world where we're talking about what they have looked like without Tyreek Hill, I do think that's interesting. I also think it's extremely interesting what you're going to hear next here from Andy Reid. As he was asked about what the process was like in terms of keeping Patrick Mahomes in the loop throughout that process of the negotiations and then the eventual trading of Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, so Soren, I kept it, myself and Brett kept it wide open with Patrick as part of playing that position. There's a pretty good chance there's change going to take place throughout your career, and so that's all part of it. And I also mentioned it to Kels just so he had a heads up on it too. Those guys are very close, and the 3 of them, and have had a lot of production for us. So, but it's important that they see that part of it. That's part of this game, and change does take place. So, and I think you beat around the bush on it. I don't think that's good either. I'm kind of upfront, and this is what it is, and this is the plan going forward.
The idea of, hey, we eventually got to make a next step. That makes sense. But man, I really do think it is worth noting that this might seem obvious, but it's in the current form of the NFL, where you've seen the relationship between Aaron Rodgers and the Packers become a problem. You saw, this was less publicized, but this might have been even more real. You saw the relationship between Russell Wilson and the Seahawks deteriorate to the point that they traded him in large part because they were kind of done. They were kind of done with each other. Like they just broke up. Rodgers and the Packers, we saw, I think both sides have their issues and both sides make their mistakes and all of that, but it has been a drama there in terms of keeping everyone on board. Now, look, both of those guys I just mentioned, they didn't have those issues in their first, whatever it would have been, 4 or 5 years now that's comparable to where Mahomes is at. And so this isn't necessarily exactly what it's going to look like when Mahomes is 35 or 40 or whatever. But right now, from what we know, what we've been able to ask about, what we've heard, it does seem like the Chiefs have laid down the appropriate groundwork to never leave Patrick Mahomes guessing as to what Andy Reid, Brett Veach, Clark Hunt, frankly, maybe even Mark Donovan are thinking about. That is the way you have to treat someone as valuable as Patrick Mahomes. Now, also, to his credit, I have not gotten the feeling that Mahomes is at a place where he is using any of that earned power and respect and in the loopness, making a word there, to ever reach beyond what his power should necessarily be. I don't necessarily think that Patrick Mahomes should be picking the first-round draft picks, but I think Brett Veach should know which of these receivers Patrick Mahomes liked watching the tape of the most. I do think that whenever you're having receivers in for visits, you ought to see if you can't get Mahomes in on that phone call, in on that meeting.
Or which running back is basically a wide receiver?
That's the one that I wish maybe wouldn't have gotten to that point. But I also have no reason to believe that, you know how Veach has there was a story about this in The Athletic, I think, recently. Veach has the Pat no matter what little like note card that I think a kid drew, and then he had it like bronzed or something later on. I can't remember the details of it. Go look up Brett Veach, Pat no matter what story. You can get all the details from that story. I don't think that either Mahomes or Veach have a Clyde no matter what note card bronzed anywhere around them. I have no reason to think that Mahomes was banging down Brett Veach's door and said, if you draft a quarterback here, I'm going to retire. Like, I don't think that happened. But you need your organizational communication to be good, period. Like, full stop. You need to have mutual trust and communication in your organization this way, particularly when this one employee is the most valuable dude in the group. Patrick Mahomes is more valuable to a franchise than Clark Hunt or Brett Veach or, God forbid, even Andy Reid. The most important person associated with the Kansas City Chiefs is Patrick Mahomes from an on-field winning perspective. You've got other rich owners. You've got other great coaches. You've got other GMs of very many, very obvious degrees of success. Super Bowl winning GMs. But this league has one Patrick Mahomes and count on one hand number of quarterbacks who you could even make a half disingenuous argument that you would take over him. Patrick Mahomes is the most important person to this organization on planet Earth. He should know where that trade process is at. He was asked about that himself later in the day in the pressers today. He explained his reaction to finding out the Hill trade was in fact about to go down.
Yeah, I mean, obviously my initial reaction was a little bit of shock. I mean, even though you knew that this was a possibility, just playing with a guy that you've played and built a friendship with over the last 6 years, it definitely was something that you didn't want him to leave more for the just being able to hang out in the locker room and do that stuff than the actual on the field stuff. But you're happy for him, man. I mean, he got a great contract. Obviously, he's back where he has a house in the off season around a lot of his family and stuff like that. And I wish the best for him. And then for me, it was just we got to keep rolling. That's just kind of how it is in this league. It's a business as much as it is about your friendships and stuff like that. And so we know that in order to have success in this league, you have to keep evolving and keep getting better. And so I got with these new receivers as quickly as possible and try to build that so that we could have success right when we get going this year.
We'll come back around to the other receivers and everything and where they go from here. But one thing that I just thought was interesting, not necessarily a value judgment, but just interesting, whenever Patrick Mahomes said what he was happy for on Tyreek Hill's behalf, he mentioned exactly two things: money and Miami. This isn't me breaking any news that Tyreek Hill is in Miami for non-football reasons. That's obvious. And I'm not telling you that he's a selfish, horrible person for the fact that he wanted to get paid what his value was. He wanted to do it where he had a house and had family already. Moving for the location, the family, and the money you want is a deeply understandable thing. Nobody should get pissy about their Tyreek Hill jerseys in their closet for that reason. For the reason of he went to Miami where he wanted to be and he was going to get paid more money. How dare he? Like, don't be that person. But the reason I thought that was interesting is because it's like Mahomes knows. Like Patrick Mahomes has talked to Tyreek Hill a lot for a long time now. We knew and now definitely know Tyreek Hill went and got paid the most he could in the place he wanted to be. Now, you can ask a lot of questions around that, but I do think that at this point, that's basically a written fact that we should keep in mind. Last clip here for this segment from Mahomes, talking about those new wide receivers and a lot of the changes that are coming in to this season of offense for the Chiefs. It's the most disruptive offseason he certainly had as a starter. Here's what he said about the new pass catchers and the other changes going on around him, especially at the coaching staff level.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be different in a sense, but I feel like we still have a strong foundation of guys that have been here over the last few years, and then with Coach Reid, Coach Bieniemy, and then having a guy like Coach Nagy back. I mean, it's someone that I've worked with before, so I have that commonality. And then as far as on the field, we're bringing in a lot of different receivers, but we still have guys like Trav and stuff like that that can kind of teach the ways that we do things, how we practice, everything like that. McCole can do that as well. And then we'll have to find production in different ways than we did the last year because Tyreek was such a big part of our offense. But I think you've seen in games that we haven't had Tyreek or we haven't had certain people, other guys have stepped up and made plays happen, and I expect that to happen this year as well.
Okay. And I know you've had a chance to throw to Juju and to Valdez-Scantling a little bit. What are your thoughts on them? What do they bring you guys that maybe you didn't have before?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you see is, as I've thrown to all these guys really, is that we have a lot of size in that receiving room that we haven't necessarily had in the past. We've done it different ways with speed and beating guys deep and stuff like that. But to have big physical receivers that can still run, that can still catch the ball over the top, but at the same time, there's been balls I've even thrown while we're throwing just kind of out there routes on air type stuff, and I've thrown it high thinking it's an overthrow, and those guys are catching it easy. So just having that size, I think, will be different. I'm excited for it. I think it'll be something that we can be very useful for us during the season.
I think that the size there, where again, maybe Andy Reid says, hey, it wasn't necessarily a purposeful thing, but it was the result. And so now Patrick Mahomes is throwing balls that he expects to be overthrown, and Valdez-Scantling and Juju are going up and pulling those in. Like, that's exciting. Also mentions Matt Nagy unprompted throughout that process. Also, a Corgi that just won one of the heats on the ESPN2 broadcast of Corgi races is wearing a muzzle, which seems unnecessary for a Corgi that looks very sweet and very happy to have won.
It's a trash talker.
I think that's what it is. His bark is worse than his bite. Or maybe not. Maybe his bite's worse than his bark. Either way, champion.
You're going to talk the talk, walk the walk. He walks that walk.
Also wearing an American flag-like cape. I mean, this thing just had the aesthetics for this particular owner is wearing a full, like, Team USA sort of regalia. They really had their plan together all the way down to the muzzle. I bet Rudy wishes he could put a muzzle on me. And in this segment just now, well, good news, Rudy, is that I will not need that, but we still can go ahead and take a break. More Chiefs talk, more Chiefs audio. Matt Derrick coming up here in about 10 minutes. Harold Kuntz in an hour and 10. That's the plan the rest of the way here on Almost Entirely Sports.
At JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, at Not That Rudy, at Sports Radio 810. Just do it already.
I don't know for a fact that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to end up with a new ring coming around February, but I know that you can have one well before that if you just go to Ruback Fine Jewelry. That's where I went when it was time for me to begin to plan for a custom engagement ring for then-girlfriend Renee, now fiance Renee, which admittedly sounds much better. And just this weekend, just yesterday, over at her family's house for a little bit of a little Easter celebration, she's got to kind of parade around and say, would anyone like to look at this ring again? Because it's beautiful, and it came from Ruback Fine Jewelry at ruback.co online. She didn't say the URL, but I do, because I think genuinely from my heart, and if you have seen this ring, you'll know from my heart to Renee's ring finger, you want to go to Ruback whenever it's time for you to build really any incredible piece of custom jewelry. Plus, they have non-custom offerings out there as well that are also incredible. But ultimately, for me, the appeal of going the custom route on an engagement ring was something that I was not sure we'd be able to actually do, that we then did successfully do, and now have a piece that we're going to love forever, that looks incredible every single time we look at it, and it's going to look incredible for a lifetime. That's in huge thanks to Hal at Ruback, who walked us through that whole process. Even got a little bit of feedback from Renee. We didn't let her see the final product until later on. No, it was overall an incredible experience. And if you know exactly where you want to start in that ring process, or if you have no idea at all, either way, you want to go to Ruback, because Hal can either take the vision you have and bring it to life, or maybe like me, you'll walk in hat in hand and say, hello, I don't want to get a ring out of a vending machine, but I don't know where to start. Well, the end result for us was absolutely breathtaking, and the whole process was incredible. Plus, a custom ring means a custom budget, so if you think, I don't know, can I afford this? Go talk to Hal and see what you guys can figure out, because he will be incredibly helpful, and you will have a beautiful product at the end of it all. They've been serving Kansas City for more than 100 years, and you can be next in line. Make your appointment with Ruback Fine Jewelry now by visiting them online at ruback.co. That's ruback.co.
Icon is seeking healthy, non-smoking men and women ages 18 to 55 to participate in a clinical research study at our facility in Lenexa, Kansas. Volunteers must be available for one stay of 24 nights and one follow-up visit. Qualified participants may receive compensation up to $9,400 for time and travel. Call Icon today at 913-210-5900. That's 913-210-5900.
Hey KC, this is Jack Johnson from The Shift on ESPN Kansas City to inform you about Active Family Chiropractic. It's one of the few places to have high-intensity laser therapy in the area. They have worked with Olympic athletes, multiple Major League Soccer teams, and some of your local favorites. Their treatment has seen a lot of success with sciatica, headaches, migraines, arthritis, plantar fasciitis, and tendinitis. Whether you are struggling with pain while walking or trying to get back in shape, Active Family Chiropractic can help you get there. Get treated like the pros and call today at 913-681-6013.
My mom's the bomb. Her hugs are so good, there's a wait list. Her laughter is the life of the party. Her smile makes everyone smile. Everything worth knowing, I learned from her. That's why this Mother's Day, I'm heading to Hellsberg Diamonds. They have beautiful diamond pendants, gemstone rings, and more. Hellsberg makes it easy to find a gift she'll love. One that hopefully she'll pass down to me one day, along with her secret to perfect hugs.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
I've been eating a lot of carrots these last few days, and I think it's the Chiefs' fault. I think the Chiefs launched me into such a pit of self-destruction that I'm now eating carrots for fun.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Mentioned at the top of the show that if you want to watch the show, you can do that on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube pages. And you can see us in beautiful high definition because we got a little hardware upgrade today. And you can now, whenever, it's been a long time since we've done this bit, but if Rudy ever needs to do a shame zoom for any reason, you're going to be able to see the pores of whoever he's shaming. I don't know if that's going to include me. Hopefully not. I don't think I've done anything shameful now. It's giving you updates on corgi races. Also from the Twitch, let's see. I was going to read. Category says corgis can be mean AF. I guess, but they're just so cute. I feel like that one was also was an aesthetic choice for that there.
There's no mean corgis, only mean owners.
Wow, that's such a good point. Also, S. Wallaby asked if I've seen Waffle, the Wordle spinoff game. I hope that's maybe breakfast food related or something. I haven't, but obviously a big fan of all of the various Wordle versions that I've seen. My Wordle score, my Wordle streak actually, is over 100, which is one of the nerdiest things about me currently going, which is pretty exciting. And if you think, well, Josh, clearly you are the most Wordle-obsessed person anywhere near this show, you'd be wrong. On the other side of the break, Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest will join us, and that will be Funny.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WA. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Now, Matt, the obvious conclusion of this segment, I'm going to go ahead and let you just sort of warm up the pipes and decide if you've got a Wookiee, if you got a Wookiee call in you. Here's what I'm going to say leading up to that. You can follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Derrick. You can check out his book, At Last, the Kansas City Chiefs' Unforgettable 2019 Championship Season, forward by Kevin Harlan at triumphbooks.com/ChiefsWin. And his Wookiee impression sounds like this.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
The greatest intro in all of radio, arguably for the greatest guest in all of radio. That's right, it's Matt Derrick time. All the things I said in that liner remain true. Also has a new mock draft up on Chiefs Digest right now. You can go check that out if you please. And it just ask Andy Reid. The dude is absolutely dieseled at this point. Matt, Andy Reid couldn't even look away. I mean, at this point, you got to start feeling self-conscious here about just the eyes you have drifting all of a sudden.
Well, Coach Andy Reid's a glue. He understands. When a fellow glutton like himself, who's no stranger from not pushing himself away from the table, when he sees game, he recognizes game.
That was the dismount. I don't know, boy. Really, if I was a better host, I would have cut the audio of your question, thinking, maybe we'll throw to the question for fun while we have you on here today. I did not cut him directly complimenting, again, how absolutely shredded you've become, but he did. You all can take our word for it. That was a parting shot from Andy Reid to Matt. Is that Matt's looking great these days?
As I like to tell people, not at my peak. At my peak, I was probably more like, I don't know, Orlando Brown Jr. in Baltimore.
Sure.
We'll just let you, be kind of indeterminate there.
Yeah.
I kind of settle in around Dontari Poe on the high end.
Right.
And now I can proudly say that I'm Dontari Poe earning a weight bonus.
Wow.
And now crushing beyond that. So
that's huge. Actually, not that huge.
Next, you know what? I'm going Mitchell Schwartz next. That's
wow.
Get down to Mitchell Schwartz level, and we're talking Mitchell Schwartz playing level, not Mitchell Schwartz.
Oh yeah, modern Mitchell Schwartz. Yeah, modern day Mitchell Schwartz might have less meat on his bones than Rudy. Like,
yeah, I got some work to go there, but
yeah, we all do. It is funny that there really are two paths that athletes can take post-career, and it's either, I'm going to make some jokes about some people's appearance here, and just, you guys nobody take them too seriously, okay? It's like either they have been pumped up by a tire pump, or all of the weight falls off of them. Particularly, I'm thinking of Joe Thomas and Mitch Schwartz. Maybe it's just being a Browns tackle, does something to you. I'm not sure.
Well, it's generally offensive and defensive linemen as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially offensive linemen. I mean, those guys have to eat like crazy to maintain that weight. And then the moment that they don't have to eat like crazy anymore, yeah, they just drop it off completely. But then, you get guys, running backs and quarterbacks and receivers and things like this, hey, they stop running around, running 18 miles a day, and they all chunk up. But, hey, look at Tim Grunhard. Tim Grunhard's fantastic shape.
Mm-hmm.
When he's not, tearing out his knees and everything. But,
right. Whenever he can stay on his feet, he's.
Trust me, we're all there. I mean, I'm two-time champion of the Torn Patella Club. So.
Well, look, I mean, clearly, not now fighting through the two-time Torn Patella Club title that you've earned. I think Andy Reid would only respect that hustle even more if he had all the facts. Maybe he does. Maybe he did the scouting report on you. I don't know. He's been in the game for a while.
And and not to digress, because we got actual football to talk about here, stuff.
We have actual football talk to talk about. So it's they didn't play a game yesterday.
I will say this: if you reduce the amount of soda you drink, it turns out that things can happen to your body.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm currently experimenting on what happens if you drink only sugar-free beverages, but you drink a lot of them. That's sort of where my little experiment is at this point.
See, what I did was I decided to. I was addicted to Dr. Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's just say addicted, flat out addicted. If I told you how many ounces of Dr. Pepper I drank a day, it would probably raise your blood sugar, 200 points. Just
Right?
hearing it.
Yeah.
So I made the goal. Okay, we're going to try and cut it out as much as we can. I'm not to zero yet. I'm working on it, but I'm better. I'm much better. But I have replaced all of that Dr. Pepper intake with a jug of iced tea. So I buy the gallon of iced tea, and I don't mind saying the brand because it's great. Milo's. I've been buying the Milo's iced tea.
Milo's is a frequent supplier of some tea around these parts. Milo's is great.
So I get that. I drink about a half gallon a day, maybe more. And that's been most of my diet plan, and I've lost like 45 pounds.
Are you drinking the sugar-free? Are you drinking the unsweetened tea? Are you a sweet tea guy?
I started. You know what? I started with the sweet tea as kind of to step myself down.
Of course.
And then I got the unsweet tea, and then I began to mix them.
That's the play. I think that's a great call.
Yeah, and just slowly, it took me about a month, but after about 4 or 5 weeks, yeah, I was all the way to just drinking unsweet all the time.
Wow, that is incredible.
The sweet tea just makes me it's too sweet. I can't touch it.
Do you? That is fantastic. Do you want, as a person with diabetes and some maybe unhealthy habits now formed with sugar-free drinks, have you tried Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar? Is that something that has enticed you, or do you want to push away from that entirely? I don't want to lead you down a bad path here.
I have tried, and I don't no matter what any of you people say, any low sugar diet soda is garbage.
Wow. Okay.
It's pure garbage.
That's all right. It's probably better to not drink the diet soda either. But I had a big cup of Diet Dr. Pepper at lunch today, and the Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar has become a real staple in my fridge at home. So I'm not saying it's even confusable. I'm just on board with it. I also do not feel any need to pull you over to that particular dark side. If you don't like diet soda, just don't. I would say don't drink it. If everyone else wants to have some unsweetened tea, maybe even mix in a water every once in a while, that sounds great. But I have found a home in Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar for me personally. But I don't want to impose my beliefs on you.
And hey, if that works for anybody, more power to you. Congratulations. It all tastes terrible to me. It tastes every diet soda. And I once I drank a 32-ounce diet soda because they gave it to me by accident, and it gave me such a massive headache that I had to lay down for the rest of the day. It is just terrible. It gives me headaches, and the aftertaste just kills me. But that's me. Your mileage may vary. If that works for you, it's fantastic.
See, I'm on the cutting caffeine out of my life, so I always have massive headaches from caffeine withdrawal. It's not fun.
For me personally, I am sort of I'm Inconceivable guy from Princess Bride. I've seen that movie literally 2 months ago, so I should know his name, but I always forget. I am him to the. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I'm Wesley. I've seen this movie enough. Renee would be so pissed at me right now. I'm Wesley to the point that I think I am just now, due to a long time supply of small doses, I think I might just be impervious to aspartame. I just can't. You could put a normally lethal amount into a vial and jab it into my heart, and I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. You've poisoned both cups. That's cool. They're both Dr. Pepper Zero. I won't even be able to tell.
I imagine that for most people, and I would probably fall in this category as well, that if I drank enough of it, eventually I would become, you develop a tolerance for it, and it would no longer bother me, and I wouldn't care anymore. But I've never been able to get to the point where I could drink enough to build up that tolerance.
You're drinking sugar-free leaf water right now? I think you're doing better than I am. I think you're doing great. I am just genuinely, this is going to surprise, but I am genuinely interested in the sugar-full and sugar-free drinking habits of friends, family, honestly, Twitch commenters, but I will Twitter users. I will take your feedback because I'm just trying to increase my repertoire. But but Andy Reid's never looked at me and said, "Hey kid, you look great." So I feel like I've got some learning to do.
It's just a matter of time. Trust me, it's just a matter of time.
My apologies to both Wallace Shawn and his character of Vizzini. I should know better by now. I'm gonna go back to the drawing board. We're gonna do better next time. You want to talk about the pressers from today?
It's a crazy idea, but we can.
Let's screw around and do it. Let's be bad. Let's mix in some Chiefs things. We played all the audio in the first hour of the talk around the wide receivers. I think the offseason stuff's kind of interesting, but I'm putting a pin in that ever so briefly because I think the obvious first crack to take at a lot of these things are the stories of, hey, don't know if you guys noticed, but Tyreek Hill's not on this offense anymore. You also have some bigger-bodied receivers. You got Mahomes talking about some of the perks of that. Andy Reid, I thought, noteworthily. I don't know. Worth noting that Andy Reid said, hey, that wasn't necessarily on purpose in terms of rebuilding that receiver room. Not sure if you believe that or not, but it certainly seems to be the end result. Both of them talked about how, hey, the offense isn't going to look drastically different. It'll look more like the offense did when Tyreek Hill wasn't out there due to injuries in recent years. So, I mean, there was a lot there that we touched on in the first hour. Obviously, you were on board for today. What of those things jumped out to you and made you think, hey, you know what? I either buy that or I don't, but maybe it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if I buy that the getting bigger at wide receiver was just a byproduct, and not Andy Reid made it act like it was just a bug and not a feature. And I think it was a feature of what they were trying to do this offseason. But certainly, I mean, I think that's a big deal. I mean, I think that hey, whatever the Chiefs' offense changes this season, I think the way that it's going to change is that you've got some, bigger receivers and more physical bodies now, and they may not be done adding, bigger, more physical bodies. Mm-hmm. And it's going to change some of the things you can do, and it's going to change some of the throws that you can make and some of the routes that you can run. So, I mean, I do think it's going to change a little bit. I mean, Andy Reid's probably right. I don't think he's selling us a bill of goods that, it's not that the offense is not going to be significantly different. I mean, remember, Andy Reid's been doing this for a long time, and he's never had any drastic changes. But maybe the most drastic change you could ever say that he made was during the Mike Vick era, just as far as, tailoring his offense to a quarterback. But even then, I mean, they did Andy Reid things. He changes incrementally, and he changes his offense to fit the players that he has. So I am certain that there will be changes this year. I don't think it's going to be 80% of the offense. I think it's probably more like 5 or 10%, but that 5 or 10% will probably be significant. And I think that, today I think they talked about a lot of the ways that it will be different. I mean, you got some big guys, you still have some fast guys, and I think they plan to take advantage of it.
When you refer to the things that they touched on today, what in that stands out to you in terms of the again, regardless, I guess, of if it was on purpose, but the end result of what we're going to see look different?
Yeah, to me, the other part of it, too, is that even though they've had some experienced receivers, I think that just that the people and the guys that they have added, I think that they're better across the board. And, and that's not a knock against, DeMarcus Robinson or Byron Pringle or any of these guys. But I think with MVS and Juju they're bringing in, I just feel like that they've got more polished receivers who are a little bit more experienced and at least with their body of work. I mean, yeah, I get D-Rob's been in the league 6 years, but these other guys, I think just have more practical experience and certainly at the things that the Chiefs are going to be asking them to do. So, to me, that's how at least I see it as being that, they're of how they can take advantage of it. Is it's just taking advantage of the experience and the strength and I think the aggressiveness. And that's probably the one word we didn't hear today that I think I see in these guys, that these guys are all aggressive. And that's something that I'm not sure has always been true with the Chiefs receivers core outside of Tyreek.
That's interesting. Yeah, aggressive as a word to write down and put on the wall somewhere. I do like that because you're right. That the way to talk about DeMarcus Robinson and Byron Pringle, as you've already shown, is kind of difficult, right? Because I think we all saw their ceilings. We all saw them do good things. And we saw this offense be really good with those guys getting some significant work. But also we all were able to see both then and now that there's room above that on the ceiling. You've already also alluded to this, though, and this also, maybe go check out the mock draft. If I had to just pick a fight with you right now, I'd say I agree with you for a number 2 and number 3 receiver, but you've also added the addendum of, besides Tyreek, this is a more aggressive group. Do you buy that do you buy a McCole Hardman contract year, as you asked about being a major factor? Do you think that there's going to be a rookie that comes in for a larger role? What is the Tyreek Hill replacement plan looking like? If we know that MVS and Juju are an improvement on Hardman and Pringle, but what about that other spot?
Yeah, and actually, I mean, one of those things I'm writing about right now that'll be up on Chiefs Digest later tonight will be the McCole Hardman contract season narrative. And one of the things that I'll be writing about, talking about, and everything is that this is not the first time that we talked about this is McCole Hardman's year.
Yeah.
To me, he's replaced DeMarcus Robinson in that regard because you remember for like 6 straight seasons it was always it's DeMarcus Robinson time, and just never happened. We've done the same thing with McCole. I mean, this is the 3rd year in a row where it's like, okay, this is the breakout season for McCole Hardman, and we haven't quite seen it. I mean, now all that being said, hey, his numbers, to his career at this point are really not that far off from what Christian Kirk put up through 3 years in Arizona. And you saw that it just needed, a little bit of an explosion in year 4 for Christian Kirk to get absolutely paid. I mean, McCole Hardman's got $72 million sitting in front of him. If he's got a 900,000-yard season, that's there. So, I mean, with McCole, part of me is, hey, I'm in the show me state. You're not. You're not right now. But hey, this is the show me state. I got to see it from McCole before I think we can buy it. Now, the other part of it is, are they done? And I mean, I just can't believe that with the top 30 visits that we're seeing from the Chiefs, some of the people that they're bringing to town to talk to that aren't in this draft, there's just too many bodies that are 1st and 2nd round receivers for me to think that that's not somewhere that they're planning on going in the top 50.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, and if you get a top 50 receiver, that's the kind of a player that you should expect, especially in this year's draft, of being able to come in and be a contributor.
Did anything from Hardman today catch your ear at all? I don't know that I even have an answer to that, but I mean, you sound like a bit of a skeptic at this point for earned reasons that you've already detailed.
Well, to his credit, I mean, and the one thing that I think he has always been knocked on, and he addressed it today, was, the off-season workouts. And he laid out there, hey, what is his plan? What does he do every year? Because that really hasn't changed, and part of it is that he wants to kind of power down. When he gets, back home after the off season, it's not about going out, playing football again. He wants to rest his body, and then he wants to work on his speed and explosion, and probably spends a lot more work on the track than he does on a football field. And it's not until he gets into OTAs that he really wants to add that. And this year, certainly, he's joining the group down in Texas, hanging out with Mahomes. And that, I think, too, is, and this is just a side note, and we could discuss it as well, but I'll just parenthetically go ahead and address it right now. What Andy Reid is doing is probably what every NFL team should be doing.
Yeah.
Because the first phase of OTAs is, by the law of the CBA, virtually useless.
Right.
I mean, all you can do is come in and lift weights.
Yep.
I mean, coaches are literally prohibited from observing you in football practice, which means that, just to stay out of the rule, you can't go out on a football field and practice at, one Arrowhead Drive, on the practice field. So there's nothing football related that the Chiefs can do. And that's why you've seen that when they're in here for the first phase, if they want to go work out, they got to go work out at Shawnee Mission North or something on a high school football field. Why wouldn't you just say, you know what, we'll do our meetings all virtual. The guys who need to be on the football field are the offensive guys. You go down to Texas and hang out with Mahomes and you do all that stuff. We'll still have our meetings, but you guys get to work onto the field and do all that, the things that you can't do in Kansas City. And do it at a facility where they've got some resources for you, and you're not having to do it on a high school field where you may, tear an ACL. Do it safe and proper. I mean, that's probably the way that every NFL team should be doing phase 1.
Yeah, so, I mean, you just laid it out, I think, with any context clues whatsoever. People probably hopped on if you didn't hear the audio earlier or whatever. But it sounds like Mahomes and a large percentage of the skill position guys are in Texas with Mahomes, and part of it, as he talked about today, is getting everybody on the same page and building some of those relationships up, which that stuff can absolutely be hokey. In this world, I don't think it is, because you're talking about a group of guys who might be meeting for the first time. I have no reason to believe that Patrick Mahomes and Marquez Valdez-Scantling have a long time relationship and chemistry. So like you have that as a baseline, but then of course it's the on the field stuff. And I used the word loophole in a tweet earlier because it sort of feels like a loophole you can take advantage of if you have a quarterback who you trust to basically run off-season workouts for all the reasons that you laid out there. So yeah, with that being said, getting some more info on that today, I thought was super interesting. It sounds like you did it as well.
Yeah, I did. I mean, especially, these things in the past have always been kind of viewed as, it's just the players going off on their own. The quarterback deciding, hey, I'm going to invite some guys over and, come on out and throw with, and catch some passes from you and everything. And it's always been very informal. I mean, Andy Reid just about gave away the game. And yes. I don't know if there's any fallout from it because once again, I mean, they're going by the letter of the law of the CBA. No one's required to go out and hang out with Patrick Mahomes in Texas. But, I mean, it's pretty clear if you want to advance your career, you probably better be because it's going to help you. And there's no benefit to, phase one. So at least from a physical standpoint, maybe, get defensive guys in and guys who have been injured to go through rehab, all that kind of thing, treatments, perfect. But, for the skilled guys that just get together on their own and do the meetings, I mean, I think that's probably the way that every NFL team should be doing it. And the thing, and I was, before I got sidetracked and I was talking about McCole and, and maybe that we've all been a little bit too hard on him for, off-season workouts, and everything. But even then, I mean, I think that's, still even some of McColl's answers a little bit was, with the, well, we're still putting in the work during OTAs and training camp and, we're still working for 4 months and everything. The problem is that you just, and I've said this a million times, and I'm going to always harp on it. And I think especially as a wide receiver in the NFL, more so than almost any position, but every position for sure, you don't get better from May to August. I mean, that's practice. That's about install. That's what it is. You get better from March and April. I mean, those are your 2 months. I mean, the time you want to take a month off and rest. March and April, when the work you do on your own and with your own coaches and with other players and everything, and learning techniques from other guys around the league, that's how Tyreek Hill did it, and that's how you've got to do it. I mean, to me, you're not going to get a whole lot better in this league if you don't put in that work in March and April, because the team can't turn you into a great receiver. They can teach you the offense, and they can polish you up, and they can get you into shape, but they don't have time to make you a better receiver. You got to do it on your own time.
I think that's super interesting. And I guess, I mean, I don't know, to sort of collide that and what we were talking about earlier, non-McCole Hardman division, like, I think that makes you sound like you're probably leaning towards being an optimist on those bigger picture conversations about Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And I think there was, I don't know, Hardman mentioned that Juju maybe was out there at some point and then was gone and will be back or something like that. I don't know. I feel like a lot of the conversations ended up around MVS, but like that, them being on board for all of this at the beginning, to your point, like it just seems like something you certainly should be on board with, but it does seem like a good sign at this point, right? Like I don't know how much you weight that, but everything you just said makes me think that you certainly don't think it's nothing.
I don't think it's nothing for sure, but and here's where I am a complete contradiction, because I generally speaking don't like the idea of any wide receiver excelling in their first year in Andy Reid's offense, because almost none of them ever do.
Right.
I mean, we could. I mean, Sammy, I guess, had 519 yards and 10 games in his first year, I think. 14 games. What was it? No, I'm looking at it again. 10 games. 10 games. 14 was his number, dummy. That was decent.
Sure.
But, if we told you that Juju and MVS were going to have, 519-yard seasons, would you be happy about that?
No.
No.
I don't think anyone will. Yeah.
No. But the likelihood of either one of them going out there and having a 1,000-yard season in their first year, guys just don't do that in Andy Reid's offense, and that worries me.
Yeah.
even though I'm very bullish. But then again, because part of me is that Andy Reid's never had Patrick Mahomes and, a lot of seasons with new receivers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one X factor to me, and why I think that these guys should be better, that if healthy, that they can. And you know what? I mean, nobody has to be the one guy. I mean, they don't need one of these guys to be a 1,400-yard guy. If three of them can, put up between 600 and 800 yards, I mean, spread the wealth. And that's what I think that the Chiefs probably need to do to be a better offense anyway. And they talked about that. I mean, that was, I think, another thread that kind of got overlooked today was just talking about the need to spread the ball around more.
With that being said, there's a name that we have said so few times in relation to his impact on the offense this offseason, but like this, with all of that being said, like this feels like it's almost has to be a Hall of Fame resume type of season for Travis Kelce. Not that he needs it for his Hall of Fame resume, but like the season you'd point to and go, wow, remember whenever a 30-whatever-year-old Travis Kelce had 1,500 yards receiving? Like, I don't know if I like that plan or if I totally think that is the plan, but we just spent so much time talking about the new guys and now even time talking about Mecole Hardman, and Travis Kelce is the constant. So where are you at on 87?
I mean, if I'm a defensive coordinator, especially at least early in the season, I might not double team Travis Kelce. I might triple team him.
Yeah.
I am going to take him out of the game. Let one of these other guys beat you. I mean, until these other guys prove that they can beat somebody and beat, one-on-one matchups consistently, just beat the ever-living crap out of Travis Kelce and just dare one of these other guys to beat you. I mean, that would be my plan. I mean, you're talking about 1,500 yards from Travis Kelce. I mean, honestly, I could see he could have a 1,200-yard season, and I still might argue that would be the best year of his career.
Yeah.
Just because I think it's going to be hard for the yards, because I think the teams are going to do that. I mean, I think they're going to beat the ever-living crap out of him, even more than they have in the past, because they can afford to. I mean, I would be a little worried as a defensive coordinator about MVS. I mean, but teams we know, they're probably for the most part throw a lot of, dime defenses out at the Chiefs with two deep safeties, and they're going to bracket Kelce, and they're probably going to chip him at the line and put a corner on him on top of that. I mean, they're going to do what they've done in the past. I mean, they're going to do exactly what teams did last year against the Chiefs, and you're going to do what the Bengals did in the second half and just dare somebody else to beat them. And if nobody does, problem. That's going to be a problem. They're going to have to get guys to step up and be effective and take the load off of Travis. Because if they can do that, and then Kelce can be himself, everything will be fine.
I'm going to hop over to the draft thing here again real quick because it's really kind of, it didn't feel like it snuck up until like last week. It's like, oh, bleep, the draft is like not very far away. And again, you can read both of Matt's first two mock drafts up on ChiefsDigest.com. You can decide how specific you want to get. You want to try to get, again, people should go read this on the actual website itself. But the two things of note, of most note in the first round is you have them standing pat and ultimately taking the receiver that's there at 30. And I don't know if this is your favorite choice at that number or if you just, wait and see and take the best available receiver at that time. But the first move you have the Chiefs making is a relatively large jump, although as you have laid out in the piece, like a, relatively reasonable terms, even for a sort of trade-averse man like myself. But you have them making a big jump up, for a double-digit spot jump up for an edge rusher. And I'm curious how you parse the difference between what you expect to happen, what you think the Chiefs should do, how the board falls, and how fragile all this ultimately is.
Yeah, because what I'm doing is I'm kind of going through a few different scenarios, and actually the next scenario I'll be doing in the next couple of days will be the trading up for a wide receiver scenario. But, part of it is, I think that I'm a bit trade averse as well. So trading up is, unless I'm trading up for a quarterback, is not necessarily what I want to do. But hey, sometimes in a draft, if you want a specific position, and there's a run on a position, and I think that could happen in this year's draft. It could, and I don't know which one it'll be. I mean, it could very well be that one team see that 3 or 4 edge rushers go in the first 10 picks, then there's the mad rush to make sure you get the next one. It could happen with receiver. I mean, there's other places it could happen. But yeah, I mean, once you move up, and in this case for me, I mean, had been circled. Okay, we want to make sure that we probably try and get one of the top 5 edge rushers.
Mm-hmm.
So once the fourth guy is gone, I mean, now you're pretty much to a spot where we want to move up and try and get the best remaining guy that's left. And in this case, we based on this board, it was Jermaine Johnson, so he's there. Let's go ahead and make the move now before we get some teams that might be interested and be jumping in front. Because at that point, it's looking like if the Chiefs stand pat at 29, they might end up getting the 7th or 8th best edge rusher. And that's probably what the scenario the Chiefs are going to face. I mean, if they're going to sit pat at 29 and 30, do you want the 7th or 8th best edge rusher? Do you want the 5th best wide receiver? Do you want the 5th or 6th best corner? I mean, that could very well be the scenario that they face. So if you want to get your pick at one of those positions, I mean, Chiefs got to move up. And that's what we've talked about, and to me is a tough thing about drafting not only at 29 and 30 every year, but then this year taking at 29 and 30. If you stay at 29 and 30, you're not getting value. You're not going to probably have a first-round grade on either player that you pick. It doesn't mean you're not getting a good player, but you're not getting what you thought was a first-round pick because those guys are going to be gone. You're going to get a guy that you probably have a second-round grade on. And like I said, that's still a good player. But if you want someone who's going to, really, is more of a can't miss and is going to make an impact immediately, I mean, these scenarios kind of show that you're going to have to move up.
It's interesting because I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this. I'm just kind of thinking out loud because that logic, as you've talked about, is, I think, a super fair piece of logic, which is that you might have 15 or 20 players with a first-round grade, and so you're taking a first-round player that you have a second-round grade on at 29-30. Again, I like repeating all that out loud. Hopefully everyone understands the logic of that. The funny thing is that if you trade up to 18 for one of the last guys you have a first-round grade on, you're not actually putting a first-round value on him because you're actually paying a first-round pick and the 50th overall pick and a fourth-round pick. It's like, well, so where would this player have been on your board as worth a first, a second, and a fourth before the draft actually began? Or was there a run somewhere in there that threw off your math and threw off your whole protocol to get you to that point? And it's just, I don't know, whenever you talk about a run and then you want to get the last guy that's in that top tier, I 100% understand the logic of that. I also know that certainly can produce a Breland Speaks result. Like that is not a process that I love because it starts to smell a little bit like being desperate, and I hate the idea of being desperate at any point in the draft, other than maybe for a quarterback, I guess, and even then it's not terribly flattering.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, and that's why, to me, I mean, if you are going to move up and get a player, I mean, to me, it's you're moving up because you feel like that player is absolutely worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, do I feel like maybe it was worth giving up 29, 50, and 135 to get that edge rusher when I could sit back and maybe have gotten someone else that I think is good, but maybe just not as good? You know what? I'd probably in retrospect would rather have the other 2 picks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, I mean, there's going to be some cost, and this draft in particular, I think is really interesting, and that's why I'm interested in seeing what Brett Veach is willing to tell us on Thursday about this draft, because it just seems, especially at a few positions, to be so deep. And edge is one of those spots. I mean, we've talked about it before. What was Breland Speaks was the 2nd or 3rd edge rusher off the board in his draft year. And, I mean, there might be 14 guys in this draft that I would say are better right now than Breland Speaks.
Yeah.
I mean, and there might be 20 guys who are better than Breland Speaks just because Breland Speaks wasn't very good.
Not very good.
But, I mean, just even as to the point in our career today, I mean, Ryan Tracy, our mutual friend, has convinced me of the greatness of Josh Pascal. I mean, that's a guy that, a lot of boards is like the 14th or 15th best edge rusher. He may go a lot higher than that, but, I mean, if people think that's, and I think Josh Pascal is better than Breland Speaks was as a prospect.
you said the name Josh Paschal. I looked up to look at Rudy, who has been begging the Chiefs to draft a Kentucky player forever, and then he just said in my headphones, never heard of him.
Obviously a joke. I know who Josh
No, I know.
Paschal is.
No, I know. It was just so shocking because your whole bit on the Chiefs and a Kentucky player for years now has been, please, God, please. And then now Matt's like, you know who I like for the Chiefs? Josh Paschal.
I'm a big Josh Paschal guy, man. Like the guy.
I understand.
Yeah. He was one of Kentucky's highest. I think when he signed with Kentucky, he was the highest recruit Kentucky had ever signed. And then just through, he dealt with, cancer and everything, and just the melanoma on his foot and everything. Dude's battled.
So I just learned about all of that being a part of his story, and so I'm really glad whenever you said he dealt with, I didn't get in time with playing for Kentucky. Because that's what I was going to say, and I wasn't familiar.
Won a lot of games at Kentucky.
With the rest of that story.
Played behind Josh Allen. Not the quarterback.
He must have switched positions. Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know Josh Allen played for Kentucky. You thought you guys would have won more games. Oh, other Josh Allen.
We won 10 games with Josh Allen.
And then what, Rudy?
What are the odds of being two guys named Josh Allen?
They're in 10 games this year.
Josh Allen sacking and picking off Josh Allen last year is one of the greatest moments in sports history.
It really was.
I'm so happy that happened.
That was even better than Will Smith pitching to Will Smith.
Ooh, I forgot about that. You're right. I think Josh Allen sacking and picking off Josh Allen is higher on that ranking, but Will Smith to Will Smith, probably a joke about being a real slap in the face or something. I don't know. I'm not going to work that hard for it. We got to let you go, Matt. Appreciate your time as always, and look forward to chatting sometime after we hear Brett Veach give us all the secrets on Thursday and one more time ahead of the NFL Draft.
My pleasure. Take care, everybody.
May your Wordle be ever generous. Matt Derrick, Wordle champion, Quordle extraordinaire, Octordle absolute super fan, and you can follow him on Twitter at Matt Derrick and read his work at ChiefsDigest.com. Another full mock draft is up there since we talked to him last week. Go check that out. That'll take you all the way through the 7th round, and go look at all of his picks there, including the receiver that he takes at number 30, who I would be happy to take at number 30.
But the pass rusher in the 4th round is the real star of the draft.
Depends on who you root for in college, I guess. But you can check that out at ChiefsDigest.com. You should go do that during the break. Whenever we come back, we're going to play some of the audio of the offseason program talk that we referred to over the course of that segment. We would have done that in the first hour, but it's this show.
We played a lot of audio.
We played a lot of audio. Give us a break. Literally, just like this upcoming commercial break.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime? Well, you can. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
We're going to be subscription-based from now on. The only way you're going to be able to listen is if you pay us $10 per episode. But if you share the episode to 5 different people, then you get it for free.
Ooh, that is good, because I was going to say, hey, I got bad news. We're going to get $0.
But see, then we get 5 billion people watching. Because everybody had to share it to 5 people.
You think?
Maybe. I'm aiming high.
You know how many things
I shoot for the stars.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
And now he lives among them. R.I.P. Beards. Thanks again to Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest for joining us. He does every Monday. Give him a follow on Twitter at Matt Derrick. You can read his work at chiefsdigest.com. In personal news, I have changed the channel now from the Cornhole Bonanza Championship, whatever they were calling it, to TNT, just to watch the Sixers continue to blow out the Raptors. So it's not more compelling currently. Just watching Joel Embiid shoot free throws and miss them. They're up by 20 and change. I want to go back to some of the things we talked about early in the last hour, or last segment, I guess, with Matt, looking at some of the offseason stuff that we discussed. Andy Reid was sort of the first one to sort of break the news of their updated program here. We had seen some stuff about Mahomes working with some of the pass catchers down in Texas, but I'll let you hear it from Andy Reid himself as to what the Chiefs are doing differently here and actually taking some things from these last couple COVID years.
We're glad to get this thing rolling again here. We're in phase 1, so we're going to do this a little bit different this year, and not in comparison to what we've done the last couple of years. It'll be basically the same, where we're going to do our meetings virtual. So in phase 1, you're able to meet with the players, and then they can work out. No coaches supervising any football activities. So we're gonna meet with them virtually. There's a number of guys that are here lifting, but these are all voluntary camps, so all 3 phases. But they will be able to work out on their own and do that part. We've had some gatherings with some of the skill players offensively. Pat organized some guys that are down in Texas with them, and they're throwing all the new receivers. So the couple of new receivers that we have are down there with them, and along with the rest of the skill players. So new running backs, etc.
So you really got to keep an ear out, but I think Matt should have given everybody a leg up on this. This is really interesting. What they're doing that's different is from what's different from 3, 4, 5 years ago, but they're keeping the virtual meeting aspect of the COVID years. Again, it's all voluntary. If you're at the facility, you can lift weights, but you can't step on a football field with a coach within viewing distance of you, apparently. And so he says here, Reid says, that Pat organized that. So this is not a coaching thing. It is all still voluntary, but they can have these meetings virtually from Texas or wherever, and ultimately tie back in with all the meetings they want to have during a virtual or during a voluntary portion, phase 1 of the offseason. But Mahomes, and in particular the new guys, the new skill position players, they're down there hanging out, building their relationships and stuff, which, again, I do think there's certainly something to that. You want to know the people that you work with for the most part, certainly in a setting like professional sports, and develop that in a little bit of a less intense form than, like Matt said, by the time you get to training camp. Like, training camp is business. This is opening up for maybe a little less intensity, but lots of reps and lots of learning what some of the basics of the offense might be. And and I called it a loophole on Twitter earlier today, because you could be a little cynical about it and say, hey, this is an advantage for any team with a quarterback who has a real command of the offense. You could have your quarterback go throw with anybody, but if this was first year as a starter, Patrick Mahomes, there certainly wouldn't be as much for these new receivers to gain there. Certainly still, again, worth the time. But now that you have Patrick Mahomes being the one that's sort of calling out the offense and everything, I imagine that they are not just running plays they've drawn in the dirt. I imagine this is Patrick Mahomes trying to lay some really important groundwork with these guys, which is something the Chiefs have been able to take advantage of, and Patrick Mahomes talked about that himself today.
Yeah, so it kind of started off where I was going to have some guys anyways come run routes and do stuff like that before OTA started. And then as I kind of talked to Coach Reid and EB, they kind of informed me, they're like, if you want to get everybody down there, then we can do the virtual these first few weeks and kind of keep everybody together. Because like that, you're off the field. I'm going to lunch with these guys. I'm working out with these guys as well, not just throwing. So you kind of build those relationships that way. And then plus we're in a little warmer weather than KC is right now. So it was a thing where we were going to have to work anyways and get off and do off the field. And we decided that it was, as long as we were in Texas working together, the coaches said that we could do it virtually and still get the learning that we need. And that just evolves with the trust that they have in us, is that we're going to be vets and we're going to do it the right way, like we've been doing. And whenever we roll into KC in May, we'll be ready to go then too.
Basically, they were allowed to have class outside today. That's sort of what that sounds like, right? I think the most actually interesting part of that is Mahomes saying that Reid and Bieniemy, quote unquote, informed me that was something that they could do, which I think very clearly reads they encouraged this because they realized, hey, look, if you're just going to have, Garrick Dieter would have been out there and maybe some other people that Mahomes had relationships with, maybe it would have been some Chiefs, maybe it would have been some other guys he knows or has played with so he can throw to some professional receivers, but you do it with guys who are currently on your team. Letter of the law in the CBA says this is something you can do, and I hope people have, between what Matt said and between that audio there, you kind of catch what's interesting about this. I'm not making it a big picture thing about how, like, this is why Patrick Mahomes is a better leader than anybody else. Like, this is great, but it's a collaborative effort that should have benefits. I want you to see it through that, not through some sort of, high and mighty, here's why the world is changing for the better. I just think it's really clever. It's a good use of time, and hopefully it will set a good groundwork for everybody else in catching passes from Patrick Mahomes in the weeks and months and theoretically years to come. It's a really cool start and something worth keeping an ear to. We'll take a break. Whenever we come back, maybe more Chiefs audio. I want to talk about this leaked Royals hat. We got lots of fun stuff we can do on the other side of this timeout.
Take the show with you wherever you go. Listen live on the Sports Radio 810. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
We've had a very like woke hour here, I feel like.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We'll get more into this with Harold Kuntz of Fox 4 on the other side of the next break. But I want to talk about the hat. I saw this first from UniWatch on Twitter, at UniWatch. Been a long-time reader of that wonderful website. They were the first to tweet out one screenshot of the apparent leaked Kansas City Royals City Connect hat. City Connect is what, there was a Wrigleyville Cubs one, a Southside White Sox one. Boston had a Boston Marathon-themed one. Several others have come out. The Washington Nationals Cherry Blossom ones. Those are all City Connect uniforms for select teams, and the Royals we're going to have one unveiled very soon. The hat leaks today. You find a retailer that put it out too soon. It is I've tweeted them out at JB Brisco. You can see the logo is very, very, very heavily inspired by the Kansas City Fountain logo that's also on the city flag. It's a little busy. I think the actual logo would look better on a larger surface, because there's a lot of lines. But ultimately, I'm pretty down with it. White fountain text on the front, little powder blue squatchy on the top, a navy blue hat. So, and we're going to get a navy blue, powder blue uniform. I'm excited to see that. But ultimately, I'm kind of lukewarm on the fountain logo. This is going to be a continuing talking point here on Almost Entirely Sports.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Icon is seeking healthy, non-smoking men and women ages 18 to 55 to participate in a clinical research study at our facility in Lenexa, Kansas. Volunteers must be available for one stay of 24 nights and one follow-up visit. Qualified participants may receive compensation up to $9,400 for time and travel. Call Icon today at 913-210-5900. That's 913-210-5900.
Hey, this is SSJ here to share some window wisdom with you. Straight from the experts at Window Nation. Spring brings some wild weather changes. On warm days, you want to ease open your windows, but on cold nights, you need to seal them up tight. If your old windows are sticking or drafty, they're not just a pain to operate, they're costing you money.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
We're a buffet today.
Yes, that's a great call.
And we are absolutely shoving it down your throat.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Speaking of going a little buffet style, we'll probably get you a little bit of everything topic-wise here with our next guest, Harold Kuntz of Fox 4. You can follow him on Twitter at Harold R. Kuntz 3. You can see him, of course, on Channel 4 across your local television dial. Hey, Harold, how's it going?
Josh, always a pleasure to be with you, man, on a Monday evening, too. It's just rare that you do a Monday, but yeah.
Yeah, during football season, it's super rare because Monday Night Football completely erases our Mondays. I don't think I have you, mentally sort of slotted into a certain day of the week. I don't think I've done that. But look, if you decide, hey, I'm putting my foot down, next time I want to be on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or whatever, you say the word. We'll make it happen.
No, man, I'm good either day, man. It's always a pleasure to be on the show, as always.
Also, Rudy and I were talking about this right before. Your phone right now sounds pretty good, and sometimes your only flaw as a radio guest is occasionally the phone gets a little muddy sort of sounding, and right now it's sounding crystal clear. Maybe Monday, Harold's what we all needed.
Well, I've taken your word of advice, and I've gone to a different area now, so I think this works.
It sounds great.
It's called stand close to the window as close as possible and see what the heck happens. That's basically what it is now.
Well, this is fantastic. I mean, yeah, clearly Rudy, we don't have a book for any of this, but pretend we have a book where we can write down "Have Harold on Mondays," and we're just gonna keep this up.
Yeah, I got it. Just
God, fully work on this show.
Still on Twitch, by the way? Are we still on Twitch, by the way?
Oh,
not only still, but better than ever, because literally tonight, first show with the new computer powering all of this. So you can turn on the Twitch and the YouTube and the Facebook Live pages, and you can see my pores. Like, they are wide open right now. I gotta moisturize.
So now you're very familiar with what being on TV is like.
Oh.
That's why we got to put on the makeup now. You got to put on the makeup. Mac counter. You got to go to the Mac counter.
Okay, see, I need some guidance. I've gotten a little bit of guidance over the years from my TV friends, as I call them. I guess I have a category of my contacts called TV friends, and yeah, that is one of many little differences between the TV and the radio world. Is I don't think that anyone has ever put on makeup for the purpose of doing radio.
No, I don't think I've. Well, I mean, you have some guys that do television that do radio as well, but a lot of times they apply it right before they go on air. So when they come out of radio, they're, it's funny how you appropriately dress for radio and television. Radio is, I would imagine, hoodie, hat, disheveled hair. Yeah.
2 out of 3 for me currently.
That's 100% what I see. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not wearing a hat. I'm not wearing a hat. Look, you can tune into Twitch.
But you got enough hair where you really don't need the hat. So
yeah, sometimes having this much hair means I really need the hat, or else I look like I've just been the victim of a horrible electrical accident.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm not agreeing with you. I'm just saying.
No, I mean it could
happen.
Feel free to agree on that. That's okay. I'm not. Of all the things I have to be self-conscious about, my hair is very, very low on that particular list. Hey, Harold, you know what I am worried about? The Chiefs wide receivers. Sort of. I mean, it's on a scale. But you were on board for.
You mean the Texas practice facilities right now? They're not in Kansas City. Yeah.
No, I mean the Patrick Mahomes' backyard all-stars as they're currently formed. I'll tell you what, I just gave that idea out for free. Whoever wants to make the T-shirts of that, but there's a free idea. I would like my cut. I'll take 45%. Harold, you want 45%? We'll get Rudy 5, and then we'll then whoever makes them can keep 5.
Don't do Rudy. First off, he did Rudy wrong. He's producing the show here. He's doing 10-15. That's not nice.
All right, Rudy can have 10.
I'm happy with 10.
Now you can have 40. I'm keeping 45. Sorry, you just gave you gave 5% of yours to Rudy. I wasn't,
because I'm a generous human being.
That's right.
I won't forget this moment, Harry.
You're welcome.
You just
and
gave
Josh,
Rudy.
I won't forget this moment.
Rudy takes over almost entirely sports. Rudy's gonna be like, Harold, you're just on every Monday now.
Yes.
9 o'clock.
You just gave Rudy 5% equity in a T-shirt that will never exist. But it's kind of interesting. We talked to Matt Derrick last hour and just kind of like sorting through all these things. I found it genuinely interesting because this was not your average week of press conferences, right? Like you get the talk of the workouts in the backyard. You get Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes really kind of for the first time in this setting dealing with all the questions about life after Tyreek Hill. Like there are some interesting storylines around this team right now. I'm curious what jumped out to you.
Yeah, I think you said it best. It is an interesting time because it's been a couple of franchise-altering decisions that are made. We're dealing with no Tyreek Hill. You're dealing with no Tyrann Mathieu. I mean, that's a person that, even though he's on the defensive side of the ball, that they've talked about a lot as being a leader in the locker room. So you've got a different locker room here, and I think that being down at the Mahomes backyard facility, as you want to call it, is important. These guys got to know each other. And one thing this franchise has established is they're listening to their quarterback, probably more than any other franchise. Like, there's still some level of control they want, but at this point, they have really just become players' coaches. This is Patrick's team. And if Juju and MVS, and McCole, and Josh Gordon, all these guys got to be down there. If that's what they think it takes, then so be it. I mean, they're doing the same things. We saw a lot of this last year when we go back to training camp last year. It was just like a new offensive line, a couple other things, and they got off to a wacky start simply because they were still getting to know each other. So now with that time invested in getting to know each other, it's only going to help their cause. Now, again, it's going to be up to them to determine whether or not it helps them out when they get to St. Joe and everything. But right now, I mean, it's OTAs, it's phase one. I'm sure the virtual check-in with Andy Reid is literally like, all right, you guys not acting up? Okay, keep going.
Got all your fingers and toes? Cool. All
right,
right, you're good.
Like nobody twisted an ankle. Do we need Rick Burkholder to go down there with you? Yeah, all right, we're good. That's pretty much all it is. So they're just getting. I mean, but two things really stuck out to me. What Patrick said was, yeah, I can overthrow them and they go up and grab it.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, that seems to me a little bit of an indictment on DeMarcus and Byron because those are the only guys that were really over 6 feet. And he's like, well, maybe these guys can go up and grab it. And I'm like, I got a little leeway there. Yeah. And then the other part that struck out with me from a football on the field standpoint is Andy Reid basically saying, I'm not going to try to make you a pocket passer. We've tried this mess. Do you? And that led me, and then along with the, of course, Patrick Mahomes' backyard practices, that led me to believe that, okay, Andy Reid is like, I think his biggest adjustment is like, I am laying off some control now. This is going to, you make it work. You know, like, you could tell in the Cincinnati game he was too constrained. He was trying to do everything, you know, from a way that's like, all right, this is team control, this is what Andy wants, this is what Eric wants, or somebody else. I mean, Patrick went out of his way to mention Matt Nagy. Let's not forget that in the opening. And I think a lot of that is like, we're going to see some more freewheeling. Back to the 2018, 2019, like, you know, we're going to go freewheeling, and this is what we're going to do. His imprint's going to be on his offense more than probably even Andy and Eric, I could go as far as to say. And they're going to go back to having some fun. But really, because this is the first time in a while he's really had to, like, work with new people. So, I mean, McColl's not new, but he's going to be a new role. So this is the first time they've really had something new to work with. I think he's excited about it. Yeah, sure, the pass is the pass to Tyrese, but let's not forget Travis Kelce's still there.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's just going to be a lot of new things. And I think he's excited about it. He's probably more excited about this than he was the last couple of years because you knew what you were getting. Everybody knew what they were getting. You could formulate a game plan. Now, defenses have no idea what to do. They're like, well, okay, well, the deep threat's gone, but McCole Hardman just said today he didn't realize MVS was that fast.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe some changes are happening there, and maybe this is going to be beneficial in the long run. But again, you never know until they get out of the field, prove it. But to them, you know, I like their optimism.
Yeah. I think the idea that this is like the offseason where Patrick Mahomes is fully driving the car, like I think that is a super interesting read into that. I like that a lot, where clearly, you know, where maybe Andy Reid has mapped the entire trip and Eric Bieniemy has checked out, has done all of the necessary mechanical work on the car. But eventually, somebody's got to drive. And I think that as much as Patrick Mahomes has been obviously, like, maybe to continue the metaphor, the literal engine of this offense for a minute now, like, it is Andy Reid's car. And I think the idea that Mahomes is driving this year for the first time is super interesting.
No, I think that's really what I mean. Let's look back to, you could tell there's certain games last year, like, all right, this looks like it has a very Andy Reid feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certain games like this has a very Eric Bieniemy feel to it. And there's other games, I mean, there's some input from both. And then there's sometimes like this is a Patrick Mahomes feel to it. But look, Andy was asked about the second half, or the Cincinnati game. He's like, yeah, we watched it. And then like kind of shut it off like there. It's like he knew that wasn't the problem.
Yeah.
That was a long time coming. That whole second half was a byproduct of something that should have been seen by anybody who followed the team. We just were blinded by it because it was 21-3, and they, and still believed the Bengals were that good of a team. Here's their adjustment. They basically sat down like, you know what? You've been in the league 5 years now. You know what you're doing. Take it over. If you got to tell us what to do, Andy Reid's known for saying, check your egos at the door.
Mm-hmm.
And Patrick Mahomes says, you know what? I know what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
He's got the clout now to say that. He's one of the longest tenured Chiefs right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, it's Travis and Patrick and heck, that might be it right now.
Oh, man.
I'm trying to think.
Yeah?
I mean,
James Winchester's been around for a hot minute.
Chris Jones and James Winchester. That's probably it. Yeah. That's probably it.
Yeah.
So, time flies when you're having fun. But that's the NFL. They said it with Tyreek. It's like, hey, some people just, Tyreek, Patrick Mahomes said it best. God bless Tyreek. He's one of the highest paid receiver in the league. He's happy for him. His home's close. He's got homes closer there. He's closer to his home state of Georgia. He's got a home down there. God bless you. Have at it. But you know what? You got to go.
Yeah.
And they're going to keep it moving. And, there's more control. And Travis, he's a consummate professional.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be like, hey, man, that's my guy. Let's get it done. So he wasn't a hard convincer. This is fully Patrick Mahomes' team now.
Mm.
From a veteran standpoint, from a input in the management standpoint, he's an established figure within the community. It's very simple now to just say, like, yeah, you got the reins now. Like, if you know something we need to do, you tell us. We'll do what we can to make it work. But if you got an idea, we're probably going to run with it. So
yeah.
I think that's where it's headed now. I really do. And he deserves it. He heard that right.
Yeah, I think that's a very smart, very interesting way of looking at it, because that really does open up the new era that we're clearly viewing here. Like, obviously that was going to start when Tyreek Hill left, at least, but there's even another gear in it. But one name you mentioned a couple times, and one that we haven't talked about very much over the last couple of weeks, is one of those very few constants, being Travis Kelce. And I don't know why today of all days is when I decided to start thinking about Travis Kelce again. Some would argue I've never stopped. But looking at what this offense is right now, and there's going to be a receiver that's drafted somewhere in those first 2 rounds at minimum, but where this offense is at right now, like Travis Kelce is so clearly the number one with a bullet on this roster that it's wild that I feel like he's been overshadowed, just so far through this offseason in terms of the narratives, in terms of the new guys. Even now, Mecole Hardman breakout year this time maybe. Travis Kelce is the guy in this room right now, and I feel like maybe he's been overlooked because he is I guess just begrudgingly, boringly Hall of Fame excellent every year.
Begrudgingly, boringly Hall of Fame excellent.
That's right.
I like that. But you got the one part right. He's definitely Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah.
He's playing his way into first ballot, and rightly so. He's had a superb career, but yeah, he's one of the backbones of his team, and the relationship between him and Mahomes on and off the field is well known.
Mm-hmm.
They like each other. They have great rapport on the field. I think Travis just needs to know now that since he's been in the season a while and he's a veteran, because he had some ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's always showed up for the postseason, but let's not forget there are some games where, you didn't want to question it, but usually he disappeared statistically a couple games. So it's now up to him to just be that consistent threat because he knows everybody's going to be after him. They're going to jam him at the line of scrimmage just like they tried to do last year and try to affect him. And they're like, well, we're not worried about the deep threat, so let's just focus on stopping that guy and we'll take care of the rest. The other guys are trying to feed off of him too.
Sure.
With Travis, I mean that's part of the learning process. There's just a lot of learning process, and it's just not going to figure itself out. And I keep saying Patrick Mahomes' backyard to use your words, but it is true. But it's not going to figure itself out there. It's not going to figure itself out in St. Joe. I mean, sure, there's going to be amazing plays here, right and left, and who knows? I should honestly stop myself right there and just say one important thing since you mentioned draft. This is the most important draft period for them.
I agree.
Forward. They can't screw this up.
Yes.
They cannot. If they want to be at a Super Bowl level, they cannot screw this up. They're a playoff level, but if they want to be Super Bowl level, they cannot screw this up.
Yeah, I think the only counter argument, I think I mentioned this to Matt last week maybe, and maybe I needed you for an ally on this one instead of Matt, who is such a rude person and fought me on this tooth and nail. Real mean guy, Matt Derrick. Mean Matt, I call him. That's what he has in my phone.
He's been working out.
Yes, I know. Shredded, according to Andy Reid. We got his whole diet plan last hour, the whole shebang. It was really a good time. But I pitched the idea that this is the most important draft in Chiefs history, and it's not that it will have the greatest impact because drafting Patrick Mahomes is the most important draft pick they have made. But for the moment, and as soon as they decided they were drafting a quarterback ahead of Mahomes' class and with Alex Smith still on the roster, then that I think by default became the year. But in terms of what the Chiefs do have in hand, knowing that Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback of this team, that Travis Kelce is here, that Andy Reid is here, that this defense is in a very questionable state right now, that the offense needs some infusion of youth and talent and just simply depth chart players, almost every level of this roster has something pretty large riding on this draft class. And I think that ultimately this might be the most important draft class in the history of the franchise in terms of what we know before it. We didn't know that Mahomes was coming in 17, but now we know that a lot has to be riding on this in a week and change now.
I wouldn't go as far as to say most important in franchise history because I like to be a little bit of a historian to believe that when the Chiefs went out on a limb at the time, it picked a lot of players from HBCUs that nobody else was picking, and it led them to Super Bowl appearances. I think that tops the cake because there's a lot of value there in players that just other franchises weren't picking. So
for sure,
from a historical standpoint, I'll state that. But for modern Chiefs, yeah, I mean it's right there, right up there. I mean they've had some misses. Let's go. I think it was the Breland Speaks draft.
Yeah,
you look at that ring.
Bad.
Oof.
Bad.
I mean, oof. And but yeah, they've got a situation on their hand. I mean, they've got 12 draft picks. They aren't using our 12. I mean, whoever's listening, they're not using all 12. It's not going to be in the same order you want it to be either. It's not happening. Beach is way too aggressive to either move up or down in this draft. But what do they need? Defensive end, secondary, preferably cornerback, and wide receiver.
Yep.
And it's pretty common knowledge they need those. And what does this draft have decent amounts of? Wide receivers and edge, at the very least. Now, they're not going to get the top-end guys like your Aiden Hutchinsons of the world, but there's some value down there. I mean, what do I always say about the NFL draft? One, that it's just overdone. It seems like a great show for nothing because they can just do that in somebody's garage and it'll work out fine. But,
right.
But when in doubt, SEC. And just when in doubt, SEC.
It just means
or in the Chiefs case, Michigan.
Right.
And then,
right.
And then the other thing I always say is if you're gonna get a receiver, that's great. Make sure they can catch the football.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that's great. You can run a route. Can you run routes? Can you pick up a rapport with the quarterback? Can you catch the football? Basic. It seems like basic stuff, but this isn't college where you get accustomed to potentially a different quarterback each year. and you only get so many practices with them before the real thing starts. Like, if you get with the Chiefs, you're catching footballs from Mahomes from your entire tenure for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So how fast can you get that acclimated? How fast can you get acclimated to an offense? Because the entire time you're with the Chiefs, Andy Reid's probably going to be your head coach. So you got to get acclimated quick, and it's harder to do in this offense than in some other offenses. Like, say if you go to Jacksonville where Trevor Lawrence doesn't have the full playbook yet, and, well, he's learning a new one under Doug Peterson, but he doesn't have the full playbook yet. You're all learning together. You got to catch up. I mean, and then let's not forget about guys like, remember Cornell Powell?
Yeah.
How much we were talking about how much he was going to be a stud, just looking at rookie minicamp. Like, yeah, that's a good pick. Nothing out of him. This is a big year for him. I mean, the Chiefs have been known to take those guys. Like Jordy Fortson is the perfect example of that. 2-3 years in the system, and finally he gets that shot. Of course, he got unfortunately injured. Now he'll be back, you'd imagine. But there's guys here that just got to work through the system, work through the process. But you can't teach speed. Well, you can't teach speed, but you can't teach natural speed. You can't teach game speed. And there's a lot of guys that have speed, as they saw at the NFL Combine. So you got to get one of those. I mean, George Pickens is a name that's been mentioned. I know there's a few others, but again, when in doubt, SEC. So, it's going to be a process. I mean, it really is. But I mean, it's a fascinating process because for the first time in 4 or 5 years, we're like, oh man, we really have no idea what's going to show up on the field. I mean, you know the players, you know the people, but you're just like, ooh, this could be fascinating how they put this all together. So, I'm curious to see how it goes. I mean, I'm much more curious to see how this goes in previous years, where it's like, all right, let's just get to the regular season. No, I want to see some practice reps.
Yeah.
And not just from offensive linemen banging on defensive linemen. Right. I want to see, last season it was all about how's Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey and Joe Tui going to hang up against Chris Jones and Frank Clark and Colin Saunders.
Yeah.
And now it's like, wow, I really want to see what could potentially be rookie-on-rookie matchups between wide receivers and quarterbacks. And I want to see how Juan Thornhill steps into a position where he's like, I gotta step it up now because, I got MVS coming my way or Juju Smith-Schuster coming my way. It's a lot of difference. The pieces, it's going to be a fun chess match how they put them all together. And I mean, that's why Matt Nagy and Eric Bieniemy got a lot of responsibilities on their hand to put these things together and make sure the thing flows.
If I made you bet on something that you would say that you virtually guarantee the Chiefs will do in the draft, and there you can make that as vague or as specific as you want to try to protect your money but get some decent odds. You can't say select a player, but what do you think the Chiefs are basically guaranteed to do if you had to put money on it?
I will go out on a limb. I'd probably take the value bet and say they're going to pick an offensive player first.
Interesting. Yeah, I think you get some good odds on that.
Yeah, and I only say it because I just look at their track record. Like they had the opportunity to pick somebody defensively. They went with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, last year was obviously a different situation because they ended up getting Orlando Brown. But again, that was an offensive player in a position of need.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the swindling that we got from Brett Veach, that pre-draft press conference where he's smiling the whole time, not knowing, oh, Orlando Brown, huh?
Yep.
You already knew about this, didn't you? So I want somebody to ask him, like, any surprises behind that door on Thursday?
Yeah.
When you guys are like, anything we need to know about before y'all leave here and see the Adam Schefter tweet?
Yep.
But no, I genuinely believe they're gonna go offensive first, just because that just seems to be the way they do things. I mean, that's just me, but
no,
I think that's where they're going.
I like that. I only asked you. I didn't ask what Rudy thought. Hey, Rudy, what do you think the Chiefs are guaranteed to do?
Draft a quarterback.
Rudy
All right, there you go. You had a chance to make it a Kentucky-based thing there, and you went.
Hey,
QB of the future.
I have been pounding the table for a Kentucky player, right? Like you've given up on the corner in the first round.
Given up.
Nobody who ever plays for Kentucky will ever play for the Chiefs. It's just not happening.
All right, so they're going to draft a quarterback at some point and really get this Mahomes fella out of here.
He wants a Stoops coach player. That's I can respect that.
Well, see that, yeah. He is desperate for any fellow Kentucky Wildcat to end up on this team. And I don't know. Do you know who the last Kentucky player on this team would have been? I personally have no idea. Rudy has no idea. So
not anytime soon.
No, find that. Go, because at the very least, Rudy, there's your like mandatory like throwback jersey. It's gonna be some like backup linebacker, but you can wear it with pride, I guess. Harold, I am really tempted to get pulled over in the direction of baseball since the Royals are like mysteriously not playing tonight. But what I really want to talk about, and I mentioned it briefly earlier, but it's very important to me. The Royals City Connect hat appears to have leaked earlier today. I've tweeted out the photos. They're now all over the internet. And UniWatch had it first, longtime UniWatch fan. So I was ready to go as soon as I saw them. Paul Lucas, man. You know Paul Lucas? Is there a relationship here?
I mean, I don't know him personally.
Okay.
He's been around for a long time.
Forever. And that website is... I've been reading UniWatch since I was 13 probably.
Yeah, right there with you.
It's an incredible site. So they had the scoop first, and I went and found some other angles and pictures and the link where you can buy it from a site that personally I would not buy it from because I do not totally trust that the site that has it first is going to have it whenever the stock is officially in stock. But it is very City of Fountains, Kansas City logo inspired. I am here to give out the take. I've tweeted out pictures and other options. The Kansas City flag for a city bums me out because there's a whole TED Talk about flag design that I also have tweeted that I think people should watch. It's 18 minutes, but it's very entertaining about how bad city flags can be. There's text on it. It's just a French flag that looks like it's been vandalized by somebody who kind of knows what a fountain looks like, but not really. But that is a integral part of the City Connect hats as we've seen. And I know you have uniform opinions, Kansas City-based opinions, but I'm gonna let you put them in your own words. I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble here.
So, I mean, you mentioned the word trouble. It might happen here. So, for our Twitch audience, stand by.
Stand by.
We as a community, and I say we, I've been here long enough, I'll put the we on it. We as a community have to stop. We have to tell these people to stop pushing fountains and any logos doing it with Kansas City. It doesn't work. It does. It doesn't work. Like, I get it. You want to put something on it. It's on the city flag. It's a logo. I get that. And you're proud of it, but it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I mean, it gives me like 70s Trailblazer vibes with the lines. And you know what? Portland's weird enough where it's like, all right, you got the reputation of being weird, cool. It just doesn't work here. I applaud the effort. I just, it's got to end. It's got to stop. I mean, it's just, it's like, stick with the Regal theme, Royals, Monarchs.
Yeah.
And, before, I mean, just Regal. And it's, I can't do it. I'm sorry. I know some people probably really love it, and they want to see it succeed, and they like it. And do you? Fashion is literally up to your choice. Like, that's fine. There are things I've probably worn on TV. Like, sometimes, I'll leave the house with a suit and tie combination, and my wife will look at me a little funny. And I know that's time for me to, like, switch things up. But I mean, but like, I'm just like, but I liked it coming out of the closet, but I understand, maybe, and I would say that 100% of the time she's right. So, but these fountain logos, like I'm just not a big fan of them. I mean, like obviously there's the infamous draft hat back in the day. That was a total abomination.
This is a step in the right direction. I'm at least going to push that.
Fair, but if you're going to go City Connect, I mean, the city's known for three things, and you would say sports teams, barbecue, and fountains.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to incorporate that, but we got to have some, good heads in the city that can combine to come up with something that flows, that works. And we got some national people out there that look like they haven't really found anything that works.
Yeah.
And they're going to keep trying to find it. Just because they're like, well, we can't waste this opportunity to not let it work, but it doesn't work for me. Just
I will follow you to at least these points. Okay, one, needed flag redesign. Just overdue. Flags shouldn't have text on them.
It's fair.
It looks like a vandalized French flag. I don't get it. The other Paris of the Plains, it's too literal. The other thing is, I think at the very least, I think that the Kansas City fountain, calling it a logo doesn't quite work. You'll know when you see it. It's the lines that kind of arch out, and it makes a vaguely very tall heart-shaped looking kind of thing. Here's what I'll tell you. Even if you don't know, what the Chicago flag looks like. You have seen it around a million times. It is iconic. It is simple. It is recreatable. A child could draw it.
Yep.
You know what an interlocked KC means. You also, what is the number one piece of non-sports team Kansas City memorabilia around here? It's the Charlie Hustle heart, which is actually the Monarch's heart that has actual history behind it. It's the heart with the KC in it. We all have something with the KC heart logo on it from the Monarchs or Charlie Hustle or otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
That was born. See, that's born by necessity. That's the thing is, we all looked at that one. Ooh, that's good. I like that. Nobody out here. The mayor's wearing the lapel pin with the Charlie Hustle KC heart. Nobody's wearing the fountain logo. We need to revisit the fountain logo. Unfortunately, the city. This is bad timing because the city of Kansas City has recently sunset the KC interlocking logo that you may have seen in Parks and Rec department sort of things. And they have introduced one that is back to that fountain logo with some text, and I do not necessarily think that it's the move that I would have made. And I also think that the new logo is theoretically going to come with the new airport and, maybe some World Cup festivities and all of that. So I'm guessing that we're going to be on the losing end of this particular gripe.
Yeah, I know. That World Cup thing, by the way, boy, that's an interesting conversation. That's going to come down to the wire.
Rudy just said break soon, but I really want to know what you're talking
Go for a while.
Let's make this our last topic. Then we can.
For a venue. Yeah, the decision for the venue on the World Cup. That's going to come down to the wire.
Why do you say that?
So,
I believe you.
Well,
But...
I mean, Nashville's trying to build a new stadium in time for the World Cup. That thing's been thrown around. The United States men's national team, for some reason, has an obsession with playing in Ohio, so that's definitely in play.
Yeah.
Definitely in play. And then Denver, is trying to make itself a nice city. So, I mean, Kansas City, as much as I feel it should be a World Cup venue, there's some top-notch competition up there.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a battle at the end. I think FIFA's got some decisions, and FIFA is such a wonderful organization.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the good news is if we just could get a little GoFundMe going, I can guarantee you that we're gonna have a World Cup game here in Kansas City. Somebody get FIFA's Venmo, and we can make this happen. It's just gonna take a lot of us.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
All right, Harold. Not only has your phone been excellent this whole time, so have you. Appreciate you joining us here tonight, and we just went a solid 32, 33 minutes with absolutely zero meaningful Royals talk. Boy, it's April. I can't believe we're here already. Yes, I can.
Well, that's what happens when you don't play 2 days in a row.
What are we going to talk about? Chris Bubich on Saturday? I'm over it.
Art Still. Chiefs drafted him second overall.
He went from 2/3 to 4 1/3. All right? That is progress.
No, it's progress. Say that again,
His
Rudy.
ERA is down to a 10 now.
His single digits is on the way for Chris Bubich. I am a Chris Bubich believer. Did you say Art Still?
Yep, Chiefs drafted Art Still second overall in 78.
That was the last Kentucky player was Art Still?
Last Kentucky player drafted. I was looking through the names.
Okay,
I
still.
didn't recognize any name in between then who played for the Chiefs, but there's a chance one of those guys was on the Chiefs roster in the 90s.
The last drafted
player
was Art Bleepin' Still.
Only drafted 2 players ever from Kentucky, one in 75, one in 78.
Who was in 75?
I already forgot his name because it wasn't Art Still.
You learned something today.
Yeah.
4-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah, no, I recognize Art Still. I didn't know he was a Kentucky guy, football school.
Kentucky legend. I knew that.
You might actually be able to get yourself a Still throwback jersey. That might actually exist out there somewhere, Rudy. All right, Harold, we will legit let you go now. Appreciate your time. Sorry for making you listen to me and Rudy talk about Art Still.
Hey, it's all right. Any Art Still conversation is more than welcome. Thanks, guys, as always.
That's Harold Kuntz of Fox 4. Follow him on Twitter at Harold R. Kuntz 3. Check him out on Channel 4 on your radio. No, your TV dial. Not your radio dial. We're on your radio dial. He's on your TV dial. Also on Twitter at Harold R. Kuntz 3. Channel 4. We're going to take about a 5-minute break. Probably a little less than that, but I was just sort of counting. I don't know. Welcome to the Art Still Hour here on Almost Entirely Sports.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page.
Hey, Kansas City, it's Brian Pringle with Victory Ford at the Legends in KCK. It's our mission to be the automotive home of drivers in the Kansas City area. We provide a vast selection of new and pre-owned vehicles, exceptional car care, and customer service with a smile. Fantastic customer service doesn't end when the sale does. Our dealership also staffs a fantastic on-site auto service and repair center. Whether you're a first-time buyer or have years of experience, Victory Ford can help you. Stop by at the Legends or online at victoryfordkc.com, where our first prize...
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
Like, I was going to throw it a break even, but you were very, like, into whatever it was you were working on.
I'm working on something. It'll show up later.
Okay. That's unnerving.
You and I will appreciate it. I don't know how much everybody else will.
Wow, save that for posterity. Almost Entirely Sports. You and I will enjoy it. I'm not sure if anybody else will.
I mean, that's all that matters, right?
Put that on the show's gravestone, whenever that is. Like, well, listen.
Almost Entirely Sports. We don't care about our fans.
With Joshua Brisco.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that show was on for, what, a few months? Yeah, what happened? Oh, they were having a good time, but literally no one else liked it. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that'd do it.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Few things here from the Twitch. One, we've got our we need a band hammer in the Twitch chat. Did you handle that one already?
I already got it, yeah.
Taking out the trash. You're gonna find on our Twitch and our YouTube and our Facebook. You are going to find new high-quality HD streaming, which you can see right now. You can also watch it on demand after the fact if you want. You're more than welcome to watch the show back, or of course you can listen on the podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. Almost Entirely Sports is going to come to you. You know, we're here. We're going to meet you where you are. But what you will not find on our Twitch is any gosh darn spammers, because we'll handle those. Have not figured out how to stop with the some of the issues on the YouTube, but that's because the mod tools for YouTube aren't as good as the mod tools for Twitch. No issues on the YouTube today, other than somebody earlier said Chiefs blow and our QB went to Douchella, which I believe is a way of saying Coachella with the word douche. And if you have to explain it, it's not a great portmanteau. I saw there was a tweet going around also, some Bills fan tweeting, Patrick Mahomes is at Coachella with his fiance. Wife? Hold on. They get actually married?
I believe so.
They did, right?
Yeah.
We never got like a bunch of like a crazy number of pictures from that or anything. It's kind of nice. Seems like a kind of normal people thing. They did actually. You're right. Holy cow.
Well, he's not a person. He's a quarterback.
He's a quarterbacking robot. So excuse me. Pardon. Patrick Mahomes is at Coachella with his wife, and Josh Allen is at the Sabres games. Our quarterbacks are not the same. Listen, man. Like, yeah, clearly. Should Patrick Mahomes have gotten an NHL team to Kansas City by now? Yes, obviously. Is he a failure as a member of Kansas City society for not single-handedly landing an NHL team in Kansas City? You want to hang that on, I'm sure. You know, I mean, clearly that's probably his fault.
A mediocre quarterback could get an NHL team. A real quarterback, a leader, he gets you NHL and NBA.
Hey, the Royals stink right now. Whose fault is that? Patrick Mahomes.
He's an owner.
He's an owner. Hey, why don't you spend up that payroll sum? Everything is Patrick Mahomes. Hey, you know what? The weather these last couple of days has been sort of unseasonably cool. Patrick! You ever think about doing something about it?
To go that warm weather to Texas.
He took it to Texas. He likes Texas better. Hey, bring our weather back. Anyway, I think it's actually like extremely cool that that you could be like 17 years old rooting for the Chiefs right now. And for the first time in franchise history, I have to imagine your team's quarterback spent a little moment of his offseason at Coachella. Do you know how much cooler that is than pretty much anything else your quarterback could do for 1, 2, or 3 days of the offseason? More quarterbacks should go to music festivals. There's my take. Welcome to Almost Entirely Sports. If your quarterback doesn't go to a music festival in the offseason, he's a dork. Checkmate.
You know what was a pretty cool thing? That, you know, as a quarterback, not a lot of people like around here. But Tom Brady, I think it was the F1 race in Morocco, I believe.
Wow.
Was just chilling on a yacht right by the racetrack, just watching some cars drive by while chilling on a yacht. And I'm not going to lie, it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Like, look, is Josh Allen clearly the picture of coolness? Of course.
Which one?
There was one thing. Oh boy, I guess it's gonna be so annoying if I can't remember what it was. There was something a couple of off seasons ago that Mahomes did. Like
threw a football.
No. It was
out of the stadium.
No. I'm gonna get there. Just give me a second. It's on the tip of my tongue. Something that Mahomes did.
Get it off the tip of your tongue.
I'm trying, Rudy. I'm trying. Let me figure it out. I'm going to get there. Don't distract me. Because there was something that Mahomes did a couple of winters ago that I don't think Josh... He won a Super Bowl.
Basketball.
I tried to wave you off from trampling the joke, man. I tried so hard. I tried to send you all of the energy that I could to just let me have this one because I was doing a thing.
I think I made it funnier.
You
didn't. Basketball.
I wanted to make a joke about Patrick Mahomes winning a Super Bowl, which Josh Allen has not done in his Februarys.
Are we sure about that?
Do you know what Patrick Mahomes has done in his Februarys? Played football. That was the only. I just wanted to make that joke. And you were doing the thing. I don't know how to signal to you that we're not doing the thing. Are the Nuggets losing? I hope they lose to the Warriors tonight.
Let me check.
I had the game up. It's a commercial.
Yeah, it's a commercial break.
I hope they get blown out.
They were up by like
for Rudy because you ruined my joke.
Last I saw, they were only up by 3. Yo, I don't know. Like, obviously, I'm not listening to the game, so I didn't see or hear or see all of it.
Mm-hmm.
But Jokic and somebody walked by each other, and the player like gave Jokic a little tap on the back. But I don't think. But Jokic like clearly did not see what happened, and he like turned and was like, "Did you just hit me?"
Jokic was trying to fight somebody earlier.
That's what it was. It was from like he got slapped on the butt by a Golden State player. I think as like a friendly like, hey. Like,
no, as a vicious attack on his glutes.
No,
somebody was just back there just wailing on Jokic's butt cheeks.
It was very much like a very chill, just little slap. But Jokic didn't see it, kind of lost his cool, and then I think realized when like 3 or 4 people told him, "Hey, man, it wasn't that." He was like, "Oh, my bad."
Also from S. Wallaby on Twitch.
Hot temper, that Jokic.
A few weeks back, you were asking for how we became fans of teams and have a pretty good one. I grew up in Arizona and wanted to watch basketball last year, and some jerk radio host convinced me being a fan of the Suns would be worth my energy.
Real jerk.
You gotta sue that guy or something. That's ridiculous that you would have that.
Got a lot to sue for, so.
You ought to sue the producer of the radio show that.
He probably has a lot less.
From Why Not on Twitch earlier as well. They said really wasted an opportunity to say shuttlecock on air. We were talking about Kansas City like imagery.
Yeah.
But you're right though, because I wasn't even, maybe it was before we were talking about City Connect stuff, but we didn't know what it was going to be based on. Or there's something recently. I might have been thinking about like tattoo ideas. I have no idea. I just think about stuff like this all the time. And I was thinking about just sort of like Kansas City imagery that we have, where like the KC Heart, again, Monarchs Forum, Charlie Hustle Forum, I love it. It's great. It is a fabulous design that has crossed so many different elements and everything. I'm a huge fan. But also, it's like super popular now, and it does have the letters KC on it, which is great for your team merch and your logos and your branding of all of that, which obviously also extends to Chiefs and Royals and Sporting and the Current. Like, if you can put KC on your logo, if you're in the area, you're going to do it for great reason. It's actually Sporting says SC, now that I think about it. So, but there's nothing in that shield is terribly Kansas City forward, I would argue. Anywho. With that being said, I was trying to think of like, well, do we have some other like usable sort of Kansas City imagery that might be connectable to the city outside of barbecue and fountains and sports teams and the Hearts and things with KC on it? And the shuttlecocks from Nelson Atkins are very high on that list. Like, Kansas City has massive shuttlecocks, and I feel like that's something that we should all be proud of and that the Royals should put on their jerseys that should be everywhere. I just feel like we should lean into that more. What other city has anything like that? Chicago has a bean. We have giant, enormous, visibly everywhere. Let's take a break.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime? Well, you can. Just search for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
Joe's Kansas City Barbecue is kicking off spring in style with the return of the King Hawaiian Z-Man. Last year's favorite is back during the month of April. Their pulled pork Z-Man is topped with roasted pineapple, sweet and spicy sauce, and sandwiched between 2 pieces of King's Hawaiian sweet bread. This sandwich has it all: smoky, sweet, and a little kick of spice. It's available now for dine-in and curbside pickup at all 3 Joe's Kansas City locations: in Leawood, Olathe, and the original in the gas station at 47th and Mission.
The all-new redesigned 2023 Kia Sportage is now available at Robert Brogdon's Olathe Kia. This rugged crossover SUV comes with a powerful engine, best-in-class cargo space, and a host of advanced interior technologies. And with the 10-year Kia 100,000-mile warranty, plus Robert Brogdon's 90-day money-back guarantee, you've got an unmatched commitment to quality and satisfaction.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
I very rarely know what I'm going to say before I say one of those dumb things.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Also from Why Not on Twitch, I'd really need the Shuttlecocks and Chicago's Bean to get together. That's when the magic really happens. And I don't understand that comment. So I don't know if you want to explain that to me, Rudy, or wait till after the show. I just feel like I don't have a lot of time left.
Yeah, let's just, you know what, let's wait till after the show.
Okay, I just don't understand what's so funny.
Well, something about bees and I think like a toucan.
You're talking about the bean, the Chicago bean, the big silver bean.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. I don't know about the birds and the bees. It's just those are the only two categories of things that fly. In after the Wright brothers, they had to update it to the birds and the bees and the airplanes. But
and
that
the
was
Wright brothers.
And the Wright. It was an issue. They had it because now like I've flown in a plane, so technically it's like it's the birds and the bees and the Wright brothers, and then every other person who's ever flown. It's really a confusing euphemism. Oh, is that about? Oh, sorry, a lot of things just clicked. All right, well, bye, Mom.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Listen up, sporting fans. Central Bank invites you to join the club with Sporting Checking. Show off your team's spirit at the match or on the go with the official Sporting Debit Card. Score big with access to Central Bank's award-winning mobile app. Plus, enjoy 10% off in-person purchases at the Sporting